educators, welcome to Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy, presented by Mentari Group and Mentari Teachers Academy. Now we are still waiting for the other participants to join our room. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu yang baru saja bergabung bersama kita di Zoom Meeting Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy yang dipersembahkan oleh Mentari Group dan Mentari Teachers Academy. Sekarang ini Bapak Ibu kita masih menunggu peserta lainnya untuk hadir di ruang Zoom Meeting ini. Jadi silakan apabila Bapak Ibu ada koleganya yang juga ikut di pelatihan hari ini bisa diajak untuk ikut masuk ya bagi yang sudah mendaftar. Terima kasih. Good afternoon, educators. Welcome to Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy, presented by Mentari Group and Mentari Teachers Academy. While waiting for the other participants to join our room, please kindly watch some videos from Mentari Group. Enjoy the video.
Coba kita lihat icon telunjuk dan juga jempol. Nah, apa isinya? Kita akan buka. Wah, ternyata ini adalah aktivitas yang sangat interaktif untuk kalian bisa berlatih soal bagaimana menamai sudut. Nah, menurut kalian, sudut apakah ini? Yang ada warna biru dan kuning. Ya, coba kita jawab. Sudut J, E, I. Atau kita bisa balik. Kita tulis mulai dari I, E, J. Nah, kita bisa cek juga jawabannya, apakah jawabannya sudah tepat atau belum. Ya, ternyata jawabannya benar. Nah, selain itu, di sini juga kalian akan bisa melihat bagaimana kalian bisa mengukur sudut dengan menggunakan satu alat yang kita kenal sebagai busur. Teknologi sangat membantu kita ya. Nah, ini adalah cara untuk mengukur sudut. Kita letakkan sesuai dengan garis. Kemudian kita bisa melihat di sini skala yang diperbesar. Ya. Nah, kira-kira berapa sudut ini? Nah, ternyata sudah ketemu ya. Nah, kita gunakan skala dalam atau skala luar. Benar, yang kita gunakan adalah skala dalam atau garis yang berwarna merah. Sehingga kalau kita lihat di sini 100, 101, 102, 103, 104. Maka jawabannya adalah 104 derajat. Apakah benar? Yeay, benar. Jawabannya adalah 104 derajat. Ini adalah besar sudut GHI. Kalian juga bisa mencoba soal-soal baru yang menantang tentunya, sehingga kalian bisa lebih memahami lagi bagaimana mengukur sudut. Kira-kira begitu adik-adik. Belajar dengan juara matematika yang sangat menyenangkan dan tentunya bisa belajar dimanapun kalian berada.
Betapa pentingnya guru. Guru adalah pengaruh utama untuk generasi muda. Guru mampu mengubah generasi muda Indonesia. Maukah kamu mengambil peran itu? Mengambil peran penting membangun generasi muda, generasi bangsa. Negara memanggilmu. Jawab panggilan itu.
Belajar bersama Mentari ini saya sudah ikut 2 event. Yang pertama eventnya dari Miss Juliani ya, yang membahas topik tentang English for Secondary, dan yang kedua membahas topik tentang
international class dari Mr. Fabio ya.
Akhir bulan Agustus kemarin saya mengikuti 2 sesi minggu belajar bersama MTA itu, yang English for Preschool, yang phonics, dan English for Primary.
Setelah kedua kali ini, dan yang kedua kali ini selalu berhasil membuat saya semangat lagi dalam bidang pekerjaan saya, yaitu mengajar.
Menurut saya adalah perlu manajemen pengajaran ini sangat inspiratif sekali ya, terutama bagi guru-guru yang sedang melaksanakan proses pembelajaran daring, karena di sana dijelaskan berbagai macam salah satunya media, kemudian juga tata cara mengelola pembelajaran, baik itu dari maksudnya dari aspek kognitif, afektif maupun yang lainnya, itu sangat bisa dilakukan.
Setelah kemarin mengikuti pembelajaran itu amat sangat bisa diaplikasikan,
bisa diaplikasikan. Tapi kalau untuk sekolah yang di tempat saya ngajar ini lebih cocok untuk yang di level S1.
Dari kelas minggu belajar ini yang paling memberi kesan kepada saya itu dan paling saya suka itu adalah aktivitas-aktivitas yang disampaikan oleh trainer, yang membuat kita selalu bisa terlibat dalam dalam pelatihan ini, sehingga pelatihan ini tidak terkesan seperti pelatihan satu arah tetapi pelatihan 2 arah.
Yang paling saya sukai tentu adalah bagaimana yang sesuai dengan pertanyaan saya ya, penilaian afektif ya, penilaian afektif. Si pemateri itu menjelaskan bagaimana ya memberikan contoh terlebih dahulu ketika pembelajaran daring seperti ini, aspek penilaian afektif yang mungkin bisa diterapkan di sekolah. Nah, saya rasa itu penjelasannya sangat mudah diterima dan ingin direalisasikan, ingin dicoba.
Bapak Ibu guru yang saya kasihi di seluruh Indonesia, baik yang mengajarnya di daerah kota besar yang memiliki sarana dan prasarana yang memadai, maupun di lokasi yang daerah pedalaman yang mungkin dengan berbagai kekurangannya. Saya sebagai tenaga pendidik juga merasakan apa yang Bapak Ibu sekarang khawatirkan, mengajar melalui online atau virtual. Jadi Mentari, minggu belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy ini benar-benar membantu, dan senang kita bisa belajar bersama-sama di event-event berikutnya. Karena sebagai guru kita pasti perlu terus belajar, meningkatkan skill kita, kemudian mengikuti penyesuaian-penyesuaian yang terbaru supaya kita bisa sama-sama membantu anak-anak kita yang akan jadi penerus bangsa, supaya mereka juga bisa menikmati pembelajaran mereka walaupun hanya melalui sambungan online atau dari rumah saja.
Thank you very much for enjoying the video. And dear educators, now we are going to play Mentari Group Anthem that we sing every day and at all Mentari Group events as part of our passion to live the vision, mission, and culture of Mentari Group in each of our works, namely build education to develop the nation. Hopefully, by this anthem, you can understand more about Mentari Group. Let's listen together.
Insan mentari, hai ini waktumu mengabdi bangsa lewat pendidikan, berangkat dari visi misi luhur. Kami datang untuk membangun negeri, berani bermimpi dan terus berkreasi, mau dan sanggup menjadi yang terbaik, cakap cepat cerdas selai, itu adalah kami, bergerak terbaik, itulah nafas kami, untuk Indonesia kami berkarya, bangun pendidikan, majukan bangsa.
Thank you. Good afternoon, educators. How are you? We hope you are doing great. Welcome to Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy with the topic Hands-on Activities for Teaching Geometry to Primary Students presented by Mentari Group and Mentari Teachers Academy. This is a teacher training and development program that is consistent and sustainable, created to be a platform for educators across Indonesia to share and grow together. For 2 hours ahead, me, Ocha, will lead this agenda. Before we start our agenda, let me inform you of some regulations for our event. The first one is, this session will start at 2 p.m. Western Indonesia time. Please make sure you have a stable internet connection. And next, during the session, participants' microphone will be off or muted. Next, only the trainer who can display the material. Next, we will have 2 Q&A sessions in the middle and at the end of the training. So if you have any question, please type on the chat box, both in English or Indonesian. We also open for Q&A directly to our trainer, and you can use the raise hand feature. If you use a laptop or computer, you can click on participant, then there will be a raise hand icon. Or if you use a cell phone, you can click on the 3 dots in the lower right corner. There is more icon, then select the raise hand feature. Jadi Bapak Ibu, apabila di sepanjang pelatihan ini memiliki pertanyaan, silakan dapat menuliskannya di chat box, bisa menggunakan bahasa Inggris maupun bahasa Indonesia. Nanti saya akan membantu menyampaikannya kepada trainer, atau bisa juga di saat sesi Q&A bisa menggunakan fitur raise hand ya Bapak Ibu. And next, in the Q&A session, I will give a chance to the participants and turning on the microphone. And at the end of the session, Bapak Ibu, I will also share a link for downloading today's presentation materials. And ladies and gentlemen, before we start the event, please fill the attendance form through the link displayed on the screen or use the link on the chat box. Silakan Bapak Ibu dapat mengisi formulir kehadiran terlebih dahulu. Mohon diperhatikan pada penulisan nama lengkap ataupun alamat email aktif. Silakan Bapak Ibu dapat diisi terlebih dahulu. Thank you very much. We are still waiting for you if you want to fill in the attendance form. And next, please, Mas Rido. Okay, dear educators, here displayed on the screen is the data of participants registered to this session. So wonderful, there are 21 cities across Indonesia. From Banda Aceh, we have participants from Indramayu, Jambi, Karawang, and then also we have from Samarinda, Pekanbaru, and any other cities. We are so grateful to have technology that could make us meet today virtually. Thank you very much, dear participants. You are all very great. And now I would like to invite Ms. Iren Suryanto as head of Mentari Teachers Academy to deliver opening remarks. Please welcome Ms. Iren Suryanto.
Thank you, Ocha. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here on Minggu Belajar with Mentari Teachers Academy. Before we start, I would like to say thank you for all team who are here today to assist us. It's not only Miss Linda as a trainer, but the all team is here. Fiani as the administrator, and then Rido as the operator. Ocha, of course, thank you so much as the moderator for today's session, and also Ludi, our event manager. Thank you so much for all the hard work and also effort from our team. I would like to inform you all about our Minggu Belajar and also the information about Mentari Teachers Academy. Please allow me to inform this in Bahasa Indonesia. Ibu dan Bapak, sekali lagi terima kasih telah bergabung pada Minggu Belajar bersama MTA. Seluruh rekan-rekan yang bertugas selain Miss Linda juga ikut menyambut Ibu dan Bapak pada acara hari ini yang diikuti oleh lebih dari 90 peserta. Minggu Belajar bersama MTA sendiri hadir sejak kemarin tanggal 22 September hingga nanti hari Sabtu 26 September 2020. Demikian juga kami sangat mengapresiasi dan bersyukur atas rekan-rekan tim trainer yang bergabung pada sesi-sesi di minggu ini, di sesi bulan September. Minggu Belajar bersama MTA, Mentari Teachers Academy sendiri, hadir sejak bulan Juli lalu hingga nanti November 2020 dan merupakan program yang secara kontinu dan konsisten memberikan pendampingan, memberikan kesempatan untuk berbagi dan sama-sama mempelajari bagaimana kita dapat mengelola pembelajaran secara daring. Silahkan Ibu dan Bapak bisa bergabung kembali pada sesi-sesi berikutnya, baik pada bulan ini maupun bulan depan di Oktober maupun November. Sejak dilakukannya program secara online bersama Mentari Teachers Academy, kami sangat bersyukur atas antusiasme dan tanggapan positif hingga lebih dari 36.000 peserta yang telah bergabung ikut serta dalam setiap program pelatihan secara online ini. Pelatihan secara online ini merupakan kerjasama antara Mentari Groups juga bersama Mentari Teachers Academy. Apa dan bagaimana Mentari Teachers Academy itu? Mentari Teachers Academy telah hadir sejak sekitar 6 tahun yang lalu, di mana kami memiliki fokus dan bertujuan untuk terus mendampingi dan bersama-sama insan pendidikan di Indonesia agar makin tumbuh, kompeten, dan profesional di bidangnya. Dalam hal ini adalah di bidang pengajaran dan menumbuhkan kecintaan pada pendidikan di Indonesia. Kami sungguh berharap bahwa para guru, para pengajar akan mampu diterima tidak hanya dalam standar nasional, tetapi bisa masuk ke kancah internasional. Untuk itu kami telah menyiapkan materi pelatihan yang lebih komprehensif menyeluruh yang kami sebut 100 hari transformasi guru. Kami menginginkan kami juga sangat berharap agar kita semua akan makin kompeten, cakap, dan berkarakter. Program ini disusun mengacu tetap dengan memperhatikan ketentuan yang telah disiapkan dan disampaikan oleh pemerintah lewat Undang-Undang Nomor 14 Tahun 2005. Ada 4 kompetensi yang perlu dikembangkan dan terus dibina, yaitu kompetensi kepribadian, pedagogis, sosial, dan profesional. 4 kompetensi ini juga diselaraskan dengan standar secara internasional yang diakui, sehingga tetap ada standar nasional kompetensi guru yang dipadukan juga dengan mengikuti standar internasional dari OECD, dari hasil PISA, dan juga the 21st Century Skills. Kemudian apa yang ingin dicapai dari serangkaian pelatihan yang begitu komprehensif? Ada kompetensi profesional seperti tadi saya sampaikan agar kita makin bertumbuh, semakin kompeten dan profesional. Di luar itu, untuk juga tetap memperhitungkan dan mengembangkan aspek lain, kami memberikan pelatihan untuk meningkatkan keterampilan mengajar. Seperti saat ini, bagaimana kita mencoba untuk terus bisa makin beradaptasi dalam pengajaran daring atau online. Kemudian kami juga memberikan ruang, memberikan kesempatan untuk kita sama-sama belajar mengembangkan kompetensi kepribadian. Dan kemudian memiliki keterampilan di abad 21. Kolaborasi, komunikasi, kreatif, dan critical thinking atau berpikir kritis menjadi komponen yang utama yang perlu tetap kita kembangkan. Untuk merangkum apa yang telah tadi saya paparkan, mohon Ibu dan Bapak meluangkan waktu pada tampilan video berikut. Video tadi memaparkan bahwa sekolah memiliki kesempatan untuk merasakan mendapatkan manfaat dari program pelatihan profesional yang bisa meningkatkan kapabilitas menjadi seorang tenaga pengajar. Sementara apa yang dapat dinikmati, yang dapat membuat manfaat bagi para guru selaku tenaga pengajar? Sebagai tenaga pengajar lewat program 100 hari transformasi guru, ada manfaat-manfaat yang langsung dapat dirasakan, dapat juga dinikmati, dan kemudian diterapkan oleh ibu dan bapak selaku tenaga pengajar. Bagaimana bahasa Inggris mendapatkan peningkatan sehingga kemudian ibu dan bapak mampu mengajar mata ajar khususnya matematika dan sains dalam bahasa Inggris. Selain itu, dengan mengikuti program 100 hari transformasi guru, ibu dan bapak akan menjadi anggota Mentari Learning Community. Menjadi anggota Mentari Learning Community berarti juga ada fasilitas lain yang akan didapatkan yang menjadi nilai tambah bagi ibu dan bapak. Salah satunya seperti tampil di layar ibu dan bapak adalah berkesempatan menjadi tutor pada program Mentari Tutor Online yang telah berjalan dan juga dinikmati oleh para siswa dan mendapatkan pengakuan dari banyak sekolah. Selain itu, ibu dan bapak juga dapat memiliki kesempatan untuk menjadi trainer dan terlibat dalam learning project bersama Mentari Group. Kami mengundang ibu dan bapak untuk dapat bergabung bersama-sama mengembangkan profesionalitas kita menjadi kompeten, cakap, dan berkarakter lewat program 100 hari transformasi guru. Bila ada informasi atau keterangan lebih lanjut yang ibu bapak perlukan, baik bagi sekolah maupun bagi ibu bapak secara pribadi yang ingin mengikuti secara mandiri, silahkan dapat menghubungi kami. Sebelum kita memulai acara ini, akan saya kembalikan kepada Mbak Ocha, dan tentu saja nanti Miss Linda, happy teaching for you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the session.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Iren Suryanto, for the opening remarks. And educators, without any further ado, let's start our session by watching our trainer's video profile. Educators, please welcome Miss Linda Setiawan. Hello, Miss Linda. You are still muted, Miss. Yeah. Hello, Miss Linda. Okay.
I was still on mute apparently earlier. Thank you for letting me unmute myself. Oke, hello everyone. Selamat siang Ibu dan Bapak. Saya ingin menyapa semuanya kembali. My name is Miss Linda, and of course, as Ibu Irene mentioned in the beginning, I am part of a team who is very supportive and hardworking, all working to support for this event to be able to be presented before you. It's always my pleasure to meet educators such as you are, committed and dedicated to always give the best for your students, and also committed and dedicated to continuously grow so that you can continue to be even more effective teachers from day to day. There is something that is unique, ya, Ibu dan Bapak, about online teaching and learning. Yes, there are things that we feel sometimes as a teacher, including for myself too. Oh, I wish we could meet our student face to face, or I wish I could do this and that in an offline class. But I do think when I was looking at the participant list, especially how diverse our group is. Many of you are coming even from schools that are outside of Java Island, right? So with the online learning, indeed, there's a unique type of inclusion that we would never imagine possible before, ya Ibu dan Bapak. Ada satu bentuk inklusi yang mungkin kita tidak pernah bayangkan akan bisa terjadi di tahun 2020 ini, di mana educators such as you dari berbagai sekolah dan berbagai daerah yang berjauhan sesungguhnya dari letak geografis, tapi kita semua bisa kumpul dalam satu meeting room yang sama ya di sesi Zoom siang hari ini. So I do appreciate your presence with us, and I do hope, and our team certainly does hope that as you are enjoying the session this afternoon, you will also continue to find things that will be meaningful and applicable for your classes. So let's begin the presentation this afternoon. But just one more thing to kind of remind you, I guess, or just make you feel free to participate. This session in Mentari, whenever we are doing our training, we always make it a goal for our participant to get involved in the process, ya Ibu dan Bapak. Jadi, please feel free if anytime you have any questions, you can type in the chat box, and our lovely moderator, Mbak Ocha, will help us to take a look at your questions and later on give it to me. Juga feel free kalau Ibu dan Bapak mau bertanya, misalnya menggunakan bahasa Indonesia pun please feel free. If you wish to ask your questions in English, of course, that's also welcome. Jadi silakan, kita adalah learning community, berarti kita sama-sama belajar, jadi no judgment. Please make yourself feel comfortable with the language that you feel most comfortable speaking in. All right? Okay, so let's begin our topic today. So our topic today will be hands-on activities in teaching geometry in the context of primary school. So let me introduce the objectives of today's session. By the end of the session, my goal is to highlight key principles of teaching geometry in primary school, and also to explore appropriate teaching ideas of geometry across any levels in primary schools. So you will see that some of the activities will be directly applicable for the younger primary students, and some of the other activities will cater to upper primary level. Jadi jangan khawatir, di level berapapun Ibu dan Bapak mengajar, baik itu grade 1, 2, and 3, or 4, 5, and 6, jadi lower or upper primary, I certainly do believe that there are ideas from the lesson today that can be applicable for your classes. Okay, so geometry comes from two words, geos, which means earth, and metron, which means measure. So geometry is a branch of mathematics, as you know, concerned with questions of shape, size, relative position of figures, and the properties of space. All right, so this is one of the main questions that we often ask ourselves, right, teachers? Why do we do what we do? Or sometimes even our students ask us, why do we study this topic? Why do we study geometry, for instance, right? So after I share the definition of geometry with you and from your own experience, I would love to hear your answers, teachers. So please let us know what you think. And in a moment, our moderator, Mbak Ocha, will share a link with you. That's the link that is presented before you at the moment on your screen. Silakan Ibu dan Bapak klik link tersebut, access the poll, and you will be able to tell us what you think. So the question there will be, why study geometry? Silakan dijawab sesuai dengan pengalaman atau pandangan Ibu dan Bapak ya. So feel free to do that, and let me show my screen. Later, as your responses came in, they will be shown here on the screen. So we will be able to take a look at what each other thinks regarding this topic. Mbak Ocha, apakah linknya sudah di-share melalui chat? Sudah ya?
Sudah. Silakan Bapak Ibu bisa diperiksa di chat box, bisa langsung diklik.
All right, and let me give us a moment just to take a look at this answers that you will submit to us. Please do not worry about right or wrong answers, Ibu dan Bapak. Sekali lagi, the goal is to hear from you. I would love to hear what you're thinking. Oh, why we're studying geometry, because it's amazing. Yes, indeed. I love this. A deep appreciation for the topic of geometry itself. There are little and big things that are amazing indeed about studying geometry. Thank you. Apakah ada pendapat lain? Ini ada emoticonnya juga ya, with a smiley face. Geometry is around our life. We can use geometry to build. I like that because it is part of the curriculum. Indeed, we're all operating based on a curriculum, right? Memikirkan luas area, I love that. We found it in our lives, helps building the thinking skills. I love that as well. Terima kasih Bapak dan Ibu untuk responsesnya yang sangat baik dan memperkaya kita semua, I believe. Improve visual ability, building the thinking skills of logic. We always found it in our lives. Yeah, it relates to a lot of different areas of thinking mathematically and also to other topics, right? It connects with us, correct? We will need the calculation in our real life in many aspects, indeed. I love how our answers vary, and they're not only within the context of a school curricula, but even in our real life, related to our real life, and also thinking in general. I love that. Thank you, Ibu dan Bapak. I will wait for about 30 seconds more, and then we shall move on to the next part of our presentation. So thank you so much for letting us know what you think and share with each other. Oh, I love this spatial view of thinking. Visualization. It's so complicated, but it's fun. Creativity to make artwork, certainly. Maybe you are someone who loves art, isn't it? Arsitek ya, betul. Kalau ada Ibu dan Bapak melihat para siswa yang mungkin punya bakat ya untuk satu ketika menjadi arsitek, maka geometry is something that the students certainly will need in that regard. Yeah. Baik, thank you so much. And thank you also Mbak Ocha for helping me sharing the link with the participants. I think that went really well. And we managed to hear from a lot of different participants. Thank you so much, Ibu dan Bapak. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly sharing from the Singapore Mathematics Curriculum Framework, which we are basing a lot of our mathematics teaching and learning and training from. And this is the Pentagon model, but let me just highlight that at the heart of any mathematical teaching and learning, we always think about problem solving. And in this particular topic this afternoon, I would like to highlight a few aspects of this Pentagon mathematics that we will certainly see and we will continue to develop by teaching and learning geometry. Some of you mentioned about spatial skills, right? Spatial visualization skills. Definitely, that's one of the skills that we are going to highlight and continue on developing in geometry. And geometry relates quite closely with measurement, as some of you were saying also in your answers. And definitely we would like to also promote the use of mathematical tools through geometry and also estimation skills, okay? Because as you are visualizing, for instance, a shape, and then you are trying to think about appropriate measurement for that shape, then that's when you can tap into estimation skills. The concepts we are discussing will be about geometrical concepts, and some of the learning processes that we are going to develop will be reasoning, communication, and connections. So I hope that you will be able to keep this in mind as we are doing the different activities this afternoon. I would like to also introduce to you some of the theory, such as this theory right here related to geometry teaching and learning. Developed by Dutch mathematics teacher, the Van Healy. They are actually a couple, so husband and wife, and they developed this this theory about stages in learning geometry for young children. So level 1, which is the youngest in the primary level, typically young children are able to identify figures or shapes according to general appearance without attention to properties of parts. So what does it mean by this level? Usually young children, for example, if you ask them, let's say you are holding a shape, in front of them, right? What shape is this? Or what shape is this? Maybe you hold it like this, what shape is it? And then they will tell you, okay, that's a rectangle. If they've learned about the name, they certainly know. Okay, why do you think so? Oh, because it looks like a door. Maybe they will say that, or because it looks like the window. So based on the experience that they've had, maybe around the house, their mom or dad is showing them, right? Oh, look at that window, the shape is rectangle. So they make association to that. They look at the shape as a whole. Oh, it looks like a door. It must be a rectangle. Gitu ya Ibu dan Bapak. Jadi recognizing shapes according to general appearance. Penampakan secara keseluruhannya seperti apa. Tapi belum bisa mengapresiasi dan mengenal properties dari shape itu. Coming up to level 2, as students are exposed more in their learning of geometry, they can recognize properties of these figures, but the properties are regarded as discrete entities and unrelated to one another. Jadi mereka mulai bisa mengenali, oh ada sides-nya, ada angles-nya, ada corners, ada edges, begitu. Tapi belum bisa menarik hubungan antara properti-properti tersebut. And then coming up to level 3, this is actually more of a middle school, so we're not going to discuss this in details, but this is where relationship between properties are established and definitions become relevant. Level 4 and level 5 are more high school and even mathematics majors, so we're not going to focus our attention there. So the two levels that we are going to see through our lessons today will be recognition and analysis. So knowing what the shapes are and recognizing the properties of those shapes. As we also look at our activities, please keep in mind that some of the important skills in geometry that I am trying to promote through these activities are as follows. Visual skills, so recognition, observation of properties, sometimes interpreting maps, right? Like you have to imagine, okay, this is the road, this is where you go, etc. Verbal skills, so communicating the right terms, for example. Drawing skills, you will see this a little bit later as we're taking a look into grade 4 equivalent materials, how to use protractor, how to use ruler and set square. And logical skills, classifying the objects, for example, and also applied skills. All right. Generally speaking, in Singapore mathematics, I will just introduce to you, this is how the content of geometry typically spiral from the simplest to the more complex ones. So as you can see from 2D figures, for example, you will see how it progresses from squares and rectangle to triangles and quadrilaterals, all the way to nets of solids. And you will see some of these also through our activities that we're going to do. All right, so to begin with, I would like to share with you an idea. This is a teaching idea number 1, and the main idea behind this teaching is to expose pupils or students to several orientations of the figures. And in order to do this, I will demonstrate it with you. So you can pretend like you are my students, and this is like young groups, yeah, so probably grade 1 or even beginning of grade 2. As possible. And then what I would like to do here is a really simple activity. Okay. Maybe I can ask that our operator can spotlight my video so everyone can see clearly.
Already, Miss Linda.
Already, thank you.
And also the participants can set their view into speaker view for a more comfortable view.
That's a good suggestion. Jadi silakan Ibu dan Bapak kalau mau dari gallery view diubah menjadi speaker view, so you can see my working space here. That now you can see the white papers in front of you. That will even be better. Jadi Ibu dan Bapak bisa fokus di area kerja saya ya saat ini. Okay, so we're going to do a simple activity. In a moment, what I'm going to do is I will show you a shape at a time. Oke, jadi saya akan tunjukkan satu benda demi satu benda. Mungkin saya mulai dengan yang tadi saya tunjukkan at the beginning, which is the shape right here. Okay, and then what you need to do as a group is this. Because there's a lot of us, okay, I would like to divide our big group into 2 smaller groups. Jadi ada grup 1 dan ada juga grup 2. Nah, group 1 will be those of you whose birthday month is anytime between January to June. Jadi kalau ada ibu dan bapak yang bulan kelahirannya adalah dari antara bulan Januari hingga bulan Juni, maka ibu dan bapak akan otomatis masuk grup 1, gitu ya. And then when your birth month is the rest of the year, so dari July sampai December, then you are going to be group 2. Jadi silakan you identify your own birth month and then Ya, thank you. Seperti yang Mbak Ocha sudah ketikkan juga di chat box, group 1 adalah January to June birthday and group 2 July to December birthday. Nanti, quite simple. What you need to do is just tell me when I'm showing you the shape. So I try that, yeah? I'll put the shape here. Group 1 will tell me the color of the shape. Okay, so I will ask you, what's the color of the shape? And then you will answer me, what is the color of the shape? Nah, silakan unmute yourself and then siapapun yang ada di group 1 boleh langsung menjawab the color, ya. Oke, kita coba bersama-sama ya. Jadi itu group 1 and then group 2 will tell me what is the name of the shape. Oke, jadi group 1 only the color, group 2 only the shape. Are you ready, Ibu dan Bapak? Silakan ya, bisa di-unmute dan kemudian langsung saja menjawab secara berurutan. Dimulai dari group 1 and then group 2. Okay?
Green. The color is green.
Oh, green. Okay, what's the color of the shape? Green. And then for group 2, what's the name of the shape? Rectangle. Okay, so that's green rectangle. Well done. I think I start hearing some responses from you. Very good. Okay, this is the
Orange.
what's the color? Oh, orange. And what's the name of the shape? Square. Very good. So that's an orange square, isn't it? Well done. Let's try a couple more. What about this one? What's the color of the shape?
Red.
Red. Very good. And what's the name of the shape?
Triangle.
Oh, so this is a red triangle. Okay. Let's try. What about this one?
Black.
The color?
Rectangle.
So it's a black rectangle, isn't it? So that's correct. And what about this one? What's the color of the shape?
Circle.
Red. And then the shape is circle. So it's a red circle. Okay. Thank you, Ibu dan Bapak. You may mute yourself for a moment for now. And then the next thing we would like our students to recognize is when we present the shapes in different orientations, they should still be able to recognize them as they are. So for example, okay, if this is the shape that I am showing, okay, I can also rotate it a little bit. By the way, what's the name of the shape? Rectangle, yeah. And if I rotate this, is it still a rectangle?
Yes.
Does it look the same or different?
Same.
It still looks like a rectangle, right? I just rotated a little bit, but it's still a rectangle. Very good. And then maybe further, you can also encourage your student to trace the shape, right? So let's trace the shape. Jadi kita telusuri gitu ya dengan menggunakan jari misalnya. Okay, if this is a rectangle, you have a straight edge over here. So that's straight. And then that's another side, right? Another side of the rectangle. Jadi terasa bahwa nggak sama ya panjangnya. And then you trace again, you trace again. Okay, that's a rectangle. Okay. You can also do something similar with, for example, this one, the square, right? You can rotate it a little bit. You can present it like this.
It's still square.
It's still a square also, right? Even though you rotate it, it's still a square, and you can do the same thing. Okay? You can trace it. You can trace it along the figure to recognize that it is a square. You can even ask your student to trace it in the air, right? So just using their finger, can you trace a square, for example? You do it like that, okay? Now, here's something that can be a little bit of a unique case, if you may, okay? What shape is this?
Circle.
That's a circle, yeah? What happens if I rotate a circle?
Still the same.
Oh, it's always the same, right? No matter how many times I turn the shape, what do you notice?
Circle.
It's still a circle. It's the same, right? No matter if you rotate it. With a square, for example, it may look like this at one point, and then if you rotate it, might look slightly like a diamond, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes back again to the same orientation. So with circle, no matter how many times you are rotating it, it will always look the same. So again, you can encourage your student to trace it, okay? Or you can even do it together. Okay, let me just go back to my video. All right, so sometimes you can even invite your students to just use their fingers, right? In the online class, this can still work. So can you trace a square? Okay, you can ask them to do it. So square, right? Like with straight sides. Can you trace a circle? Okay, it goes round and round and round, just like that song that probably some of your students used to know in kindergarten, right? Like the wheels on the bus goes round and round. It will look the same no matter from whichever orientation that you are presenting the circle from. Okay, so may I ask maybe for 1 or 2 responses, what do you think are some of the learning values that you are promoting by doing that simple activity I demonstrated just now? Jadi dengan showing the shapes and then ask 2 groups to identify the color and also to identify the actual shape. What do you think are some learning values we can obtain from that? Maybe if there's 1 or 2 answers, or you can also type in the chat box if you would prefer to do so before we continue on with the next part. Sudah ada mungkin dari Mbak Ocha, sudah mengamati, ada yang raise hand maybe?
Not yet, Miss Linda, we are still waiting.
Okay, okay. Belum ya?
Belum, ya. Yeah. Okay, we have
ada.
Mr. Delphidus.
Yes. Kayaknya ada beberapa juga via chat ya. Saya lihat ada yang mengatakan some shapes got edges and one got no edge. So yeah, observing the different properties of shape, very good. Tadi sepertinya ada yang raise hand, apakah masih terlihat?
Masih. Mr. Delphidus Nong Bapak.
Silakan. Silakan Pak, mau share?
Thank you, Miss Linda.
Yeah.
For me, if I see from the integrated learning, it shows there that the students not only learning the mathematics itself, but they also learn about the language where they can obtain the shapes and colors. So learn about the shapes and also the colors itself.
So practicing observation skills and also communicating skills ya Pak, by mentioning the name of the shapes. Very good. I think there are also some answers. We involve the students in the process dan juga ada beberapa tadi ya pertaining the skills, learning different colors of shape. We involve the students in our lesson, giving them challenge and can be more fun for them. Dan ini untuk younger primary ya, so helping students to identify the shapes by doing a simple activity. Okay. Let me keep going. Thank you for your responses, Ibu dan Bapak. So that's what we mean by exposing students to different orientations ya. Jadi terkadang kita ubah sedikit orientasi atau penampilan ya, penampakan dari one shape so that students can visualize the shape from different point of view. And let me tell you, let me also take the time, for example, to mention this because this is what the mathematics teaching and learning connected. How mathematics teaching and learning connected from one level to another. Let me show you a case here. For instance, this is just a case of, this is the tool that we're going to use later in this session, and this is a set square. Tapi bisa juga kita bayangkan ini bentuknya adalah right angle triangle ya. In one of my sessions, this is more for secondary teachers. This is typically what a right angle triangle is presented in a lot of textbooks, right? And then sometimes when we change the orientation like this, for instance, is it still a right angle triangle? Of course, it's still a right angle triangle. Now, sometimes the problem with this orientation would be when, for instance, you are asking a student to identify whether or not they can see the hypotenuse. When the triangle is like this, 100% of the time, let's say, your students are confident, oh yang ini nih sisi miringnya, this one is the hypotenuse. But when you're changing the orientation to this, without giving students enough exposure before, that actually, what is a hypotenuse and all that thing, potentially your students might be a little bit confused. If all their life, they only see a right angle triangle that is like this without ever being exposed to a different orientation. But if you have prepared them that, you know, it can look like this or it can also look like this when you rotate it, as long as you identify which one is the right angle, you should be able to find hypotenuse, for example. Then you have prepared them well. So that's why primary teachers, as we are exposing our students to different orientation of a shape, this is one of the long-term goals, even within the mathematics curriculum itself, is you are preparing your students to have enough visual skills, to have developed enough visual skills that they can transfer it to even more sophisticated mathematics learning in the future. Ya, jadi kita mau expose student kita kepada perspektif yang berlainan dari satu shape yang sama, supaya mereka terlatih untuk membayangkan dan melihat fitur dari suatu benda tersebut. Okay, let me continue. So thank you for participating and also sharing your thoughts on that. Now, before I show you the online geometric pattern activity, let me show you this picture here. This is one of the concept checking, if you may, which are not squares and why. And in order to introduce this, you may also point to the color, right? So I have 5 shapes here. The colors are light blue, yellow, red, dark blue, and green. Which shape is not a square? Or maybe there's more than one, right? Which are not squares? Any answers? Yang mana yang bukan squares? Which one is it? Is it the yellow? Is it the red? Is it the light blue? Silakan. Which color is it that is not a square, Ibu? Silakan.
Oh, not square. Yellow. Yellow.
Oh, yellow is not a square. If it is not a square, then what is that?
Yellow is a rectangle.
Oh, because yellow is a rectangle, so it's not a square. Very good. And then, is there anything more that is not a square?
The dark
green.
Purple. Yes.
Dark green.
Oh, okay, the dark green one. What shape is it?
Purple and green.
Circle.
Oh, okay. There's also the purple one or the dark blue one. Yeah, that's a circle. Yeah, jadi this is why we are introducing the students to trace the shape, right? So they will have that visualization skills developed already. Okay, thank you very much. So that's not a square also. So now, Ibu dan Bapak, I would like to also introduce an online activity that's kind of serve the same purpose to check whether or not our students have that concept in their mind about the different orientation of shapes. Jadi ini bisa juga dicoba sebagai salah satu alternative activities. So let me prepare that first. So this is still talking about the different orientation of shape, yeah. Okay, so Ibu dan Bapak sudah melihat dari screen saya ya. Okay, it says which shape completes the geometric pattern. So the learning about orientation of shape can also be transferred into geometric pattern like this, okay? What do you notice? What shape do you notice is here in this pattern?
B.
What are these shapes?
Turn right.
B.
Oh, langsung jawabannya ya. Jadi we see triangles, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
What do you notice about all the triangles?
Turn right.
Pertama ke atas, habis itu ke samping. Ke samping.
Yeah.
Atas lagi. Samping.
All right.
Yeah.
Clockwise, turn right.
Jam.
All right.
To the right.
It has circle in it.
Okay, thank you. So the triangles are all the same, yeah? The same triangles, the same color. But this pattern has to do, I think somebody is saying something on the top and then on the side, right? So it's a circle that keeps moving from the top to the bottom right, to the bottom left. It goes back to the top. So the pattern repeats itself, right? So dari atas, kiri, kanan, bawah, kiri, bawah, and then going to the top. So the next pattern will be, where would it fall? Where would the circle fall? That's gonna be this one, B, as some of you mentioned.
The dot should be in the bottom right.
There you go. Yeah, jadi different orientation. The triangles are all the same. but the circle inside the triangle changes location over time. Begitu. Kita bisa lihat juga satu
Look
contoh
for a
lagi.
pattern. Which figure completes the pattern?
Okay, so this pattern is built up through circles, right? So one circle and then, yep, very good. So how do you know it's C?
Because 1, 3, 6, selanjutnya adalah 9.
Oh, okay. So you're taking a look at the number of the circle, isn't it? So from 1 and 3 and then 6. So that must be multiples of 3. Multiples of 3 as you go and progress to the next one. Very good. Thank you, Ibu. Is there another way that we can take a look at this pattern to find the one with the question mark? Jadi yang pertama bisa analyze from the total number of the circle, ya. Kemudian ditemukan multiples of 3. Is there another way that we can take a look at this pattern?
The shape is triangle.
Oh, the shape is triangle. So no matter what, you're going to have a triangle. Very good. Thank you. Is there one more maybe? How do you complete the pattern from here?
The first is 1 and then go to the next is +2 and then the next is +3. So the next will be +4.
That's the side.
Yeah.
The next pattern must be more dots. The next pattern.
Correct. So it's a growing pattern. We recognize it's a triangle, okay? And then we take a look at how many layers does the triangle have, and then eventually the next one have to have 4 layers with 4 at the bottom, just like some of you mentioned together. Thank you.
Great! You correctly used the strategies to finish the pattern.
All right.
The correct answer is letter C. This figure completes the pattern.
So sometimes, along with the activities of recognizing what shapes there are and also the different orientation, we can also try something like this with our students for concept checking, but also to even bring it a little bit further. So stretch it out a little bit and help our students to complete a pattern. Pattern recognition is also one of the mathematical skills that are really good in a lot of different contexts, not just in geometry, but this time it's a geometric pattern, of course. Okay, so let me share my screen again with all of you, and let's continue on with the next part. Okay, so now I will give you an opportunity to try something. Okay, we've been talking about the shapes and also how to put the shape on different orientation. And now, if you have the objects that we've asked you to prepare for the session, this is going to be your opportunity to try it out. I would like you to trace a shape that you have learned so far, okay? Find an object you want to use, for example, a pencil case or a bottle cap. And then what you will do with that shape is you will trace the shape in a sheet of blank paper and you will name the shape correctly, okay? As a teacher, I will show you what I want you to do. And then we will see what you can come up with. If you would like to prepare your materials at this point so you can get ready, you may do that as well. Okay, so for example, I have this object. Yeah, just a container from potato chips. Okay, I'll put it on a piece of paper. And all I want to do is just to trace it, right? So tracing means that I will just follow whatever shape that is that I put on my paper. So I will just try this out. Let's see. You can also use other shape depending on what you have nearby or you have prepared before you come to the session. There it is. So I have a circle, okay? You may do the same thing. You may trace more than one shape. And then we will see your result in just a moment. Let me just give you maybe about 30 seconds or so everybody get a chance to just give it a try and trace the shape with the materials you've got. And then we will, I will need to ask Mbak Ocha again to help me a little bit with this. If you notice anybody who is done and maybe raising their hand, maybe you can hold your picture or your paper against the webcam that you're using.
Oh yeah, we have.
And then we can put yourself on the spotlight.
Actually, Miss Linda.
Yes.
Okay, here we have Mr. Johan.
Thank you, Mr. Johan. I see you have a rectangle and a circle there. Very good. Thank you.
And also Miss Paulia Faradila.
Okay, Miss Paulia, we will find you and put you on the spotlight.
Oh, still Rectangle.
I'm just curious, Miss, what object did you use to trace that one, Miss? Okay, a pencil case.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe we can, I think we have some time for 2 more examples, maybe, because the participants did this very quickly,
Yes,
so we
we
have some
have
time to share.
Miss Saidatul.
Silakan, Miss. We see a triangle this time. What did you use, Miss, in order to, and also a circle? What did you use in order to produce those pictures?
Bottle cap.
Oh, okay, bottle cap. Thank you very much. All right. Maybe one last one for now. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm. I do feel your energy, even though we're not in the same room.
Okay, we have Miss Rita. From Miss
Okay.
Rita.
Thank you, Miss. I see a triangle, and I also see, is that half a circle, semicircle? Using your protractor, I think. Is that it?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think we'll call it off for now. Thank you so much for your enthusiasm again to show me your pictures. Okay, so you can imitate that activity certainly in your classrooms with your students. Just ask them to find objects that are simple enough to find around the house. And I also like it, even one of you is showing just, you know, how you can use this and trace it in order to form half of a circle. You can even, you know, use that to make or to build up a whole circle if you wish to. Okay. Sometimes our students can be creative enough that if we ask them, for instance, okay, show me a circle or draw a circle, then they can do just that, okay? Use their protractor twice in order to produce a full circle. Okay, so thank you for doing that. All right, so moving on to teaching idea number 2, we would like to encourage our students to identify the properties of the figures and allow them to group the figures according to the common properties. So here we are moving into recognizing the different properties of the figures. So first of all, I would like you to just focus your attention here on the pictures that you see, and then afterwards I will do the demonstration again. Okay, so we are looking at the different solids and the different examples of objects with that shape. Okay, and we're also going to take notice of the different properties. So for example, the first one here is called a cube. So it has some flat faces. The flat faces are all squares. It has some corners, and it also has some edges. The examples of objects that you can see related to cube will be the Rubik's Cube, or a dice, or an alphabet cubes, okay? Meanwhile, there's also cuboid here. Kind of like cube, but not really, okay? Because some of the faces, or not all of the faces are squares. They still have some flat faces. They also have some edges, and they also have some corners. Those are the examples of the objects. Maybe your pencil case, maybe a trash bin, maybe a radio in this case, right? Okay, and 3 more shapes or 3 more solids here. Cone has a flat face that is a circle, okay? And it also has the tip, right? At the tip, you can kind of see something like a corner, right? At the very top of the shape. And then cylinder has 2 flat faces that are circle, and 1 other face that is circular also around it. Some of the examples for this are tin, trash bin, some of the trash bin also in the shape of a cylinder, maybe batteries, okay? And then sphere is like the shape of a tennis ball, or the shape of a basketball, or the shape of a marble, okay? Now, if this is a flat face, and in the previous pictures, you also see edges and corner. There's a question here. Does a sphere have any flat faces, edges, or corners? Well, the answer is it doesn't have any, right? It doesn't have any flat faces, edges, or corner. It's just all one face, sometimes we call it, right? That's a sphere. Okay, so here's another activity. This is equivalent to grade 2 level. In your classes, you may encourage your student to do this in pairs. So as you can see, here's the idea. The idea is someone you will provide, let's say, a bag, or basically you just have to have a few shapes here or a few solids here. For instance, a cube, cuboid, a cone, a cylinder, and a sphere. And then one person is going to feel one of the solids without looking into the bag. Okay, and as the person is feeling the solid, the person will describe the solid to the partner, and then the partner will guess what the solid is. So for instance, here, the boy in the picture says, okay, I'm holding a solid. It has no flat faces and no corners. Okay, so based on those description, can the other person guess? Oh, that must be a sphere. And then the person will hold it up to check whether or not it is indeed a sphere. Okay, so we will just do this and try this activity. There's many of you and there's one of me. So what I will do is just showing my workspace first. You may as well use objects that you can find around the house in order to conduct this activity. I'm showing you this intentionally so you can, to give you some ideas that you can use anything as long as it represents the solids that you would like the students to learn about. So for instance, here just some of the, containers or boxes like this. You can use, box like this you can use as well. Here's just, a container, lip-tin container. You can also use that. And here are some more solids. Bottle cap, right? So you can use anything really from, concrete objects around the house or the solids that is wooden solid if you happen to have those, okay? So what we're going to do is I will just remove it from the camera so you can no longer see it, and I am not looking at it as well. And what I will do is just, I will do what the person in the PowerPoint slide was showing. So what I will do is I'm going to touch the solid and I will tell you what it feels like. Okay.
I'm
and
sorry,
then,
Miss Linda. Before we go, we start the activity, there is a question from Miss Elisa Trisna. What about a circle, Miss? Does it have any side?
No, it does not. It does not. Because by side, we mean the straight side. So we do not say a circle have a side. Later on, when you are in the, I would say when the student are typically in the middle school, that the definition of a circle is actually a collection of infinite amount of points, right? With the same distance between those points to the center of the circle. That is actually the proper definition of circle. So we don't call that a side.
Okay, thank you, Miss Linda.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, shall we continue? Yeah, you're welcome, Miss Elisa. And that's why, yeah, circle is always an interesting one to talk about because it belongs to a two-dimensional shapes, typically in the primary school units. But then, the more formal definition is gonna come after. Okay, so so what I will do, again, I will just do this a few times so that you can get an idea and you can feel free to use that idea or adapt that in your classes as appropriate. Okay, so I'm holding it. I guess I can just show myself now. And then if you think you have an answer, you can either type in the chat or you can also just unmute yourself and tell us what it is. Okay, so so class, I'm holding a shape in my hand. It has two flat faces. And I think the two flat faces are circles. Okay, what is it? Oh, I see two answers. It's a cylinder. Are you sure it's a cylinder? Okay, so let me show you what the shape is. Okay, there it is. Congratulations, you got it right. It's a cylinder, very good. Okay, the next one. I'm holding a shape again in my hand. It has a lot of flat faces. I don't think all of those flat faces are the same. It has some edges. It has some corners. There it is, right? That is cuboid. And then the last one, I'm holding a shape in my hand. It doesn't have any flat faces. It doesn't have any corners as well. and it doesn't have any edges. What is the solid I'm holding? Sphere, okay? There it is, that's a sphere. Yeah, so you can do that activity in your classes. As I've said, you can divide your class into pairs or into smaller groups. If you're using Zoom like this, you can make use of the breakout room as well, okay? So thank you, teachers, for your participation for that activity. So sometimes we are using concrete materials. Sometimes we also use pictorial representation, right? Just like in this activity, here are the pictorial representations of the solids. But then in the demonstration, we can also use concrete materials. All right, now we come to the next teaching idea. And this has to do also with one of the skills that we are promoting in teaching geometry, and that is drawing skills. So we would like to make full use of grid paper and dot paper for making appropriate diagrams. Let me show you what this activity is about, and then again, you can get involved in this activity the same way like you did before, as I'm showing it to you. Okay, so basically when we are teaching our students first to draw, typically we're using grid paper or square paper first, because that's just easier, right? When you're connecting the dots, take a look at this picture right here. Each corner is a dot. Draw the figures by connecting the dots. So even as you are modeling it for your students or giving instructions, all you need to do is just connecting those dots. And later on, you can move on to a more sophisticated representation by using, you know, the ruler. And then you're using measurement and things like that. This one will be using square papers in order to produce some pictures or some diagram. Okay, so let me stop there. And then if you happen to have your grid papers and your dot papers, you can also follow me as you do this. Okay, so here's a dot paper. And again, when you're in the context of your online class, you may ask your students to follow you, or you may also ask them to produce like a shape. Like for instance, how do you produce a square, or how do you draw a square? Okay, let's say you are starting from one corner right here. Say you're starting from this corner or this dot right here, and you want to make a square. How do you make a square? Maybe you can start by, let's just go down first. So connect 4 dots all together, for example. What do you remember about squares? Okay, same sides, okay. So you can go across, and then you can go up. So you can even use simple words like going up, going across, and then you can connect the 2 points here, or the 2 dots, in order to create a square. How do you know it's a square? Oh, you can count the dots. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, all same sides, so it must be a square. Okay. Do you think you can create something else? Sure you can, right? Like for instance, I've prepared something, a different shape. How do I create this shape? I can start from one corner, count 2 dots across, and then from the same corner, I can also go down 2 dots. I can go across 5 dots. And then I am connecting this kind of like diagonally, right? Okay. Do you think you can do the same? Maybe we can also open up a chance for you to try something with the dot papers. Mungkin 2 peserta ya, Mbak Ocha, if there are 2 people that are ready with their drawings. We can ask them to also show it in front of the camera, kind of like before. You can let us know by raising your hand if you wish to, or you can also type in the chat box if you have produced some kind of drawing on the dot paper. Yeah. Or if you have a grid paper, it works more or less similarly as in the dot paper. You're using a digital version, isn't it? So you're creating a square, I see, and also a rectangle. Would you like to also speak up and tell us how you produce the rectangle?
Yes, I'm sorry. I count the dots for the square, and I count the same. So I connect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dots. So I connect it here 5, and this one also 5 dots. Here also 5 dots. Here also 5 dots. So become a square.
Okay, so all the same, yeah, for the square, and not all the same for the rectangle. Very good. Thank you, Ibu Shana, for sharing with all of us. Maybe one more? If someone else have a different, particularly if you come up with a different drawing, different kind of drawing, you may let us know if you wish to. Satu lagi saja.
Silakan Bapak Ibu. Ada yang ingin membagikan hasilnya? Hasil gambarannya ya?
Iya, that's true. Mungkin belum ya? Oh, ada ternyata. Miss.
Oh, ada.
Apa ini, Bu Anggun
Miss
ya?
Anggun, ya.
Silakan, Miss. Okay. Okay, while waiting, maybe I'll just move on. Oh, sudah ada? Ini juga ada paper ya, dalam bentuk PDF sepertinya ini. Jadi ternyata yang saya sukai adalah Ibu dan Bapak berarti bisa juga dengan langsung ya untuk konteksnya PJJ ya, bisa juga langsung menggunakan dot papernya dalam bentuk PDF, and you can also model it for your student. Thank you Pak Sigit for showing us briefly the picture that you came up with ya. Jadi dengan dot paper itu memudahkan sebenarnya ketika awal kita mengajarkan untuk drawing ya. In the same way with grid paper juga it works similarly. Then in a moment I will show you how the drawing or the full use of the grid paper can also help in other units of mathematics later on. So here, of course, it's the same. If you want to produce a rectangle, for example, you just count how many squares you have to go down and across, okay? So let's say if you want to create 4x2 rectangle, all you need to do is just connecting those lines and count how many squares that there are. Dan di sini biasanya kalau squares itu, maybe before I show it to you, typically for a square paper like this, other than for the drawing itself, what can it be useful for? What other math units that you would typically look at the drawings on square grid like this? Kita lihat, mungkin juga ada yang dari chat, belum ya?
Belum. Silakan Bapak Ibu bisa unmute juga ya.
Oh, for graph, sure. For bar graph, ya, misalnya itu sangat memudahkan. Terima kasih, Miss Elisa. Sometimes for graph, we do want our students to do for different aspects in mathematics ya. For statistics and data, bisa kita pakai juga square papers. Kita juga bisa pakai untuk measurement sebetulnya Ibu dan Bapak. And that's what I will show you in a moment. So yes, we are teaching the students the drawing skills in this context, but it can also be connected to some other areas. But before that, I do want to show you another tools that probably some of you are even using. This is called a geoboard. And as you can see, this is similar to the dot papers. Yes, thank you. This is similar to the dot papers that we just used. Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. So this is called geoboard. Typically, when it's the physical form of this would be like a real board, right? Usually, like with the nails on top of those boards, and then you can place rubber band on that board in order to create different representations of different 2D shapes, such as here you see a rectangle and triangle, for instance. You can also use a virtual version, of course. Now that we are talking about online teaching and learning, I think some of us will appreciate digital tools, just like what you were demonstrating in your answers earlier, just using the PDF right away, right? So something like this, for instance, we have a board, the geoboard. Do not worry, all this link later on will be available in your handouts. So you'll be able to access these tools again even after the session is over. Jadi nggak usah khawatir ya, kalau seandainya saat ini belum sempat make notes dan nanti mau pakai misalnya. So suppose I'm choosing yellow. All I need to do in this case, if I would like to produce a representation of 2D shapes, right? I will just place it on the board. That will be like a rubber band. And just like a rubber band, right, it can stretch out. So if I want to create a rectangle, for example, I can just create something like that. Or I can even create a bigger triangle like that. I can also create rectangle, okay? And I can also create something else. So for instance, if I just want to create a square, 1 by 1, that's all I can do. So feel free if you wish to use something like this later on for your online class, you can use that. Okay. All right, this is what I was talking about earlier. When we are making a full use of square papers, not only we can draw on the square papers, but typically the square grids can also be used in the units of measurement. For example, finding area of a particular shape. This is a grade 5 lesson, finding area of composite shapes. Maybe those of you who are teaching grade 5 at the moment, or you have taught grade 5, you're quite familiar with this content, right? So you would like to find area of a shape. This consists of a square and a triangle, for example, right? And the use of grids is helping the students to count or to calculate the area more easily. So there are 2 ways. You can either add, just like this one. So you can think of this shape as being formed with a square and also with a triangle. So a square 2 by 2, and also a triangle. But there's also another way, of course. You can make use of the related rectangle. So as a student is thinking about the shape, they can think, oh, hang on a second, if I can imagine a rectangle surrounding this shaded area, then I can also find the area of the blue shape by finding the area of the related rectangle and then take away the area of the 2 smaller triangles. Same answers. Okay, 6 squares. This is also 6 squares. Okay, so it's the same whether you're adding or subtracting, it's the same. And again, the use of squares is helping the students because they can also count, right? In order to verify their answers for this. Okay. Up until this point, I think we're about halfway through and we are ready for the first Q&A point, even though I've taken one of your questions earlier from one of you. But this will be a good time if anyone wish to ask anything. Our moderator, Mbak Ocha, can help communicating those questions with me. Maybe 2 questions maximum for now.
Yeah, we have Mr.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Rados. Would you please turn on the video also, Mr. Rados? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon, Miss Linda.
Yes, hello, Pak.
My question would be, during this home-based learning, talking about geometry, especially for the upper grade, where they will learn about 3-dimensional shape. I am focused on teaching the upper primary level. So my question would be, do you know whether there is any virtual source like virtual manipulatives to show the relation between a cube and a rectangular cube or a cone or a cylinder in terms of the volume? Like, at school, yeah, we have, we have the hands-on things to show that when you pour water into a cube and then you pour it into a cylinder, you will see a difference of the volume of the water, so that they can relate the difference of the volume and how to count the volume, or with the pyramid. So my question is, do you know there is any virtual manipulative source? Because during this home-based learning, it's quite hard to use the tools because we are working from home, and the tools is at school, and I'm not sure even if I use that that real tools, I can show them properly using the camera of my laptop. And my experience for this a couple of months during the pandemic, it is always easier to use the virtual manipulatives to teach the students using a video or a Zoom.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radas. Please, Ms. Linda.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a good question, and I do agree with you. I've done a couple of lessons before relating usually the volume of pyramids, usually, right? Like it's like a third of the volume of a related cuboid, yang seperti itu. Jadi you can also use direct experiment if you have that. I would actually, my first recommendation would be trying to find videos, Pak. Karena sebetulnya untuk yang seperti itu, demonstration of how the water is being poured from one container to another, itu sangat banyak sekali. Like for example, if you go to YouTube, you just go to YouTube, something that a lot of people are familiar with, then you can choose whichever video is not too long, karena usually kan juga online meeting doesn't last a very long time ya Pak. Then you can use those videos. I would suggest videos is best for that kind of experiment, supaya actionnya itu kelihatan, karena what we want is the action of pouring the water from one container to another and how it fits exactly. Itu banyak sekali Pak. Jadi tinggal Bapak cari misalnya relationship between prism dan cube atau prism and cuboid, misalnya begitu, and you can play that video in your class followed by discussion afterwards. Kalau saran saya sih begitu Pak. Kalau untuk virtual manipulative, usually that has to do with 3D atau solids. Usually it's more like we're talking about the net of solids, misalnya begitu. Jadi jaring-jaring ya, lebih banyaknya jaring-jaring, dari jaring-jaring itu kemudian bisa menjadi satu bentuk solid misalnya Pak. Begitu ya. Jadi kalau untuk yang tadi volume, I would prefer that you choose a video and you can play that in your online class if it is not possible for you to do the actual demonstration. Begitu. Or you can, another saran ya, one last one, sorry Mbak Ocha. Another suggestion Pak, actually now that we are doing online learning, sometimes there are things that you would probably prefer as a teacher to assign as a project ya Pak. I wonder if you can also assign that as a project to your students. Jadi can you with your group misalnya, jadi tidak usah selalu dari Bapak yang demonstrate, right? But you can allow students the opportunity to find it for themselves. What's the connection between the volume of pyramid and the volume of related cubes, misalnya begitu. These are the steps that you need to do. Nah, kemudian mereka lah yang bisa misalnya membuat dalam bentuk video gitu, Pak. Karena saya kira kalau Bapak upper primary ya, so probably grade 5 atau grade 6 ya, Pak. I think this is something that you can consider untuk give it as a project ya, even for kelompok atau misalnya principal gitu Pak. Jadi mereka yang menemukan gitu, I think.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Linda. That is a good suggestion. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome Pak. Thank you also.
Yeah.
Oke, mungkin cukup dulu ya Mbak Ocha atau?
Yes, that's okay. Please continue. We will also have another Q&A session at the end.
At the end, that is correct. And I see Ms. Sarah's question here on the chat box. So kind of method we could use to teach students about measure and draw angles. That is actually coming up after this.
That's true.
So hopefully my demonstration will answer that. Okay, thank you so much. So let me move on to the next part. So we're about halfway through. So these are the geometrical tools, using geometrical tools. So it has to do with drawing skills, but also just the skills in using and reading the appropriate scales and things like that. There are two things I would like to focus on when we are using set square and also the ruler. I think those of you who are teaching grade 5 mathematics probably are quite familiar with this as well. Yeah, so we are going to focus on two areas, drawing a perpendicular line and also drawing parallel lines. Okay. So I will go back to my working space. So if you happen to have your paper and also your ruler as well as set square, the right angle triangle shape. Yeah, you can just have those ready. Actually, for perpendicular lines, two lines that form a right angle, it's not too difficult. Kita bisa langsung mulai saja, misalnya dari, you create the base first, so you create a horizontal line, misalnya. Okay, and then what do you do in order to create a perpendicular line? You will use the perpendicular side here on the ruler, and then place the base of your set square so that it will coincide with the line. And then you will draw the other line, so that will be right angle triangle. A perpendicular line, sorry. You can also use that if you wish your students to construct a right angle triangle, for instance. So you can start with the base and then draw the right angle and just connect these two corners, right? Okay. Another use of a set square is you can also produce a pair of parallel lines. And I wonder if you've tried this activity before with your students. But parallel lines are basically two lines that will never meet at any point, no matter how long you extend them, right? So what you can do is you can draw, for instance, a line here. Let's say this is line PQ. And then let's say if you want to draw another line that is parallel, so not perpendicular, but this one is parallel, you will need both your rulers and your set square. So you place your set square such that the base of the set square will coincide with the line. Jadi berimpit ya, base-nya itu berimpit sehingga posisinya tepat. And then you will place your ruler next to your set square. And then you can slide it over, whether you want to create it below the line or above the line. Jadi begitu caranya supaya posisinya nggak berubah gitu ya. Jadi dari mulai posisi sini, if you wish to create another line that is parallel to PQ below the line PQ, then you just slide it over. Dan kemudian bisa digambar. Gitu. So this line RS will be parallel to PQ. Bisa seperti itu ya. Kalau mau di sebelah atas, kita bisa juga slide it over. Jadi dari sini, maka slide it over ke atas. Jadi fungsinya the ruler is to hold the set square in place so that you can produce another parallel lines. Jadi this has to do with the skills, ya. Dan I think as best as possibly virtual manipulative can do with this one, I would much prefer that I try to demonstrate using paper and pencil like this so that students see the steps and they can practice it, hopefully. Yeah. What you can do at home if you're thinking of how to set up this is you will need a second camera, typically, for you to be able to do all of the demonstration below the camera. Okay, so that is the perpendicular, and that is a pair of parallel lines. And of course, I would like you to try as well with this one. So if you don't mind, let me go back again to my PowerPoint. So we've done that, parallel lines and also perpendicular lines. Okay, so I would love to see your working as well. And here's also another idea. If you want your student to try drawing skills, let's say, and then you want them to show some kind of like drawing that they produce other than showing it in front of the camera, you can also use some virtual whiteboard, for example, a Jamboard. Maybe some of you are using it in your classes. So I think that was Mbak Ocha, yeah? Was that you? Were you sharing the link? Yeah, thank you, Mbak Ocha. It's always very quick to share. Okay, so our moderator has shared with you a link to this virtual board that you can access, and let me show you what it looks like. Jadi silakan bisa dicoba. Oh, sudah ada yang join sepertinya ini beberapa. Thank you, Ibu dan Bapak. As a reminder, here I provide an image of what a pair of parallel lines look like, and also some perpendicular lines, yang berarti the red and the blue line. Okay. If you don't mind, if you have another device such as your handphone, maybe you can draw a pair of parallel lines and perpendicular lines, or maybe just one or the other, that's fine. And then what you can do here is on the left side, you can click on the image button and you can upload your image here for us to see. Jadi this is the way for us to take a look at each other's work. And hopefully if you haven't done or haven't used this board before, perhaps you can consider using this as a way for your students to collaborate sometimes, or to upload pictures of their work. Or sometimes if you wish to use this tool for discussion, you can also click on the sticky notes maybe, and then they can each share their thoughts. Your students can share the steps maybe for problem solving and things like that, okay? We have a lot of us in this class, which is exciting. So don't worry if this board is full. You may click here on the next frame, and then it's practically the same thing. So you can also use that. If this was in a real classroom, like in a real classroom building, that's what I'm talking about. Instead of using this virtual thing, of course, you can also make use of the bulletin boards in your classes and have your students paste their pictures there for others to see. This is more for like checking, right? Whether or not students are also fluent in their skills. So let me give you maybe a couple of minutes, like maybe 2 minutes or 3. So if you wish to take a picture of your work, atau kalau ada yang bisa juga produce gambar dengan apps lain, and then you would like to just screenshot and put it here, that will be nice for us to see. Silakan ya, Ibu dan Bapak, boleh produce line-nya dulu. And then you can upload it here. I think the board that has to do with parallel and perpendicular lines are board number 5 until board number 9. I think 10 and 11 are just blank. So you can expand this, and also you can click on a board and then duplicate it if you wish to.
I think we have someone drawing on the first page, Miss Linda.
Oh, okay. Like board number 1, yeah?
Yeah. First board.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, okay. Maybe you can just move your pictures here onto board number 5, maybe.
Okay.
I also see someone, I think, trying in board number, I don't know if it is 9, 10, or 11. I think the easiest for you is to really just upload a picture. Okay. I'll just wait maybe for about a minute. If you are not successful yet with the drawing, do not worry about it. You have the link already, and we can always revisit this board after other activities to see if there's more results coming in.
Silakan Bapak Ibu, bisa di-upload juga. Jadi ada banyak cara ya, Miss Linda ya.
That is true.
Difoto dari handphone, kemudian di-upload di sini, di link yang tadi yang sudah dibagikan di chat box, atau kalau dari misal ada aplikasi di laptop atau di komputernya bisa di-screenshot ya dan dikirim ke sini juga.
Dan dikirim juga ke sini. Jadi nanti di sini kita bisa lihat hasilnya bersama-sama. That is the idea actually. Saya perkecil gambarnya supaya space untuk Ibu dan Bapak sedikit lebih luas ya. Let me see. Sometimes I also use this for problem solving ya. Jadi if I am giving a question for students to solve, and then I ask them to come up with the different steps that they can solve the problem, bisa juga dipakai. So this is just like a virtual board. Okay, maybe I'll stop there for now. Nanti kalau sambil Ibu dan Bapak mau mencoba lagi upload, you can do that again later. Meanwhile, this has to do with the next part. Will have to do with the question that was asked before. So how do you actually draw begitu ya? Okay. Okay, so the next tool that we are going to explore will be the use of protractor. And in teaching to use geometrical tools, we would like to emphasize accuracy in readings and the importance of using a sharp pencil and a thin ruler for drawing. Yeah, so again, this still has to do with drawing skills, but we are using a different tool this time. First of all, these are the features of protractor. So it means if you are a protractor, you introduce the student, okay, here's a protractor, and here are the different parts. Okay, so at the center, and then baseline, the horizontal line at the base of your protractor, we call it the baseline. And then we also have an outer scale and inner scale. Usually the part that is often tricky for students, I guess, is just the inner scale and outer scale, isn't it? Sometimes they are not really sure which scale to use. Am I reading it? Like for instance, this angle right here. Oh, that's probably 135, right? Or 45, right? So no, they're not sure. So that's one of the things that we would normally address whenever we are teaching our students how to use protractor appropriately. Okay. So having said that, what are the steps to measure angles? So for instance, in the previous picture, you see that there's a picture of an angle, the one in the blue. Okay. And then here's a picture of a protractor also. If you were to explain to your students, if you were to ask your students to explain to a friend, for example, how do you measure this angle using a protractor? How would you do that? So what you can do at this point is, if you feel comfortable enough, you can share the steps with us. So how would you measure an angle using a protractor? How would you measure this angle? So you can just let us know, and we will call on you, and then you can tell us maybe one step at a time, supaya tidak terlalu banyak begitu ya, atau tidak terlalu panjang, because there are a few steps. You can let us know what are the steps when we want to measure angles. Mungkin dari orang pertama dulu, apakah sudah ada yang raise hand, or let us know through chat that you wish to share with us? Sudah ada? Waiting. Still waiting? Okay. So when you want to measure this blue angle, for example, what will be the first step? So there's a picture of an angle, all right? And there's a protractor. What's going to be the first step to measure an angle?
We should consider which scale that we are going to use.
Okay, okay. So in
outer
this case,
scale or inner scale.
Very good. So we should consider very carefully. There's a very helpful tip when it comes to measuring angle with a protractor. So in this case, which scale is the correct one, Pak Hendrik, ya? Pak Hendrik to use?
Yes.
So in this case,
yeah, because
one?
the horizontal line goes to the left, so we use the zero at the left side.
That
we
is a
always
very helpful tip.
look at for the zero, which zero that we are going to use, the left zero or the right zero. We follow the horizontal line.
So we always follow the horizontal line.
Yeah.
So we are placing it. Thank you, Pak Hendrik, for your answers. So as we're taking a look here, the baseline of the protractor will coincide with the baseline of your angle, right? Then this is the horizontal line that Pak Hendrik pointed out. And one helpful tip is you will always look for the zero. Where is the zero? Is that on the outer part or inner part? Is that outer scale or inner scale? Okay, if it is outer scale, that's when you will begin measuring, isn't it? So from 0, you will rotate, in this case, clockwise, all the way till you get to the other straight line that form the angle. Okay, so you will go all the way, that reads as 45. Okay, so you're using outer scale. So place the center. Of course, this protractor is already, the center is already placed at the vertex. In the case where it's not yet placed appropriately, you can remind your students, make sure that the center of your protractor needs to cover the vertex of your angle. So really here, not only we are teaching our students how to read appropriately and measure appropriately, but you will also realize, right, that we are developing the communication skills in this case, because we have to use the correct terms. The students can also practice using the correct terms to explain to their friends. Again, another idea for this is if you were in the class, okay, in a smaller class, certainly, like probably a class of 20 or even a class of 14, what you can also do with your students is you can put them in pairs or groups of 3, maybe, and then ask them to practice explaining to each other, how would you measure using a protractor? How would you measure this angle using a protractor? Try to talk to your friends about the steps. Okay, so they've got to practice their communication skills as well. Okay, so let me just play this video, how to measure an angle. This is kind of like a recap or a summary of what we just talked about regarding how to measure an angle. This is taken from one of our sources that we have here at Mentari called MCEDU Hub. Let me just play the video for you, and it will highlight again some of those key terms and vocabularies that need to be communicated when we want our students to know how to measure angles and how to explain that process as well.
Let's measure this angle. We use a protractor to measure angles. The first step is to place the baseline of the protractor on line PB. The next step is to place the center of the baseline of the protractor at the vertex of the angle. Since the line passes through the 0 mark on the outer scale, we read the measure on the outer scale.
So this is similar, yeah, to what Pa Henry answered earlier. So we just take a look at where the 0 is, basically.
Now read the outer scale. Line PA passes through the 60-degree mark. So the angle is 60 degrees.
So that's how you measure angle. And of course, as a follow-up, if you have taught your students how to classify angles based on their sizes, such as acute angle or obtuse angle, then this will also be a good time for a follow-up question, such as, okay, the measure of this angle is 60-degree angle. So is it an acute angle or obtuse angle? Yeah, so you can do something like this. I think also to address the question earlier, so the way to teach how to measure using a protractor, I would recommend you can use a picture, okay, to introduce, just like what I've demonstrated, you can use a picture of a protractor to introduce the different parts of a protractor. You can use a video like this to go over the steps, follow up by some questions or discussions. You can also break your students into group, as I've said earlier, and then ask them to try to explain to their friends how they would measure an angle using those steps or using these steps. You can even do it twice. Ask the students to try to explain first, and then once you have shown the video, ask the students to practice explaining to their friend or to their partner in their class how they would measure a different angle, okay, by repeating the steps. So those are some of the ideas that I would recommend. And of course, you can also use the actual demonstration. So you can use paper and pencil, you can use the actual protractor, and you can repeat the same process. So you can use pictures, videos, online discussions, breakout rooms. Those are some of the alternative ideas. But I think one thing we all want to be sure of is just how to teach our students to read accurately, and also whenever possible, we want to allow our students opportunity to practice explaining those steps or verbalize those steps, so they will make use of the correct term. Okay, another question here, maybe from a different person. Earlier, Pa Hendrik has helped us. Now this is a question, a follow-up question, of course, that you can also ask your students if you're in your classes. Do we read the inner or outer scale? So clearly this is one of the areas that is important to address when we read using protractor or measure an angle using a protractor. Do we read the inner or outer scale, and why? Okay, so pretend like you're my student. Is there a different voice this time? Is there a volunteer that would like to tell us the answer to this question? Silakan Mbak Ocha, kalau ada yang raise hand atau ada yang mengajukan via chat, mungkin bisa diarahkan.
Ya, silakan Bapak Ibu.
For this question, do we read the inner or outer scale, and why is it?
Ada yang ingin menjawab?
We use outer scale.
Oke, saya mendengar ada suara sepertinya Pak Marjohan ya. Silakan Pak. Okay, please.
Okay, for this question we use outer scale because the baseline of this angle is on the zero mark here in the outer scale. So we start from zero.
So
then we go to the right to check in which scale, in which number of the other one line, the other line. So we can calculate how many degrees of this angle.
So in this case, what is the measure of this angle, Pak?
This is around 100 degrees.
About 100 degree, right?
Yeah,
so certainly it's not 80. Thank you very much, Pak, for your participation. So of course, we can also develop that sense in the students, to also visualize when an angle is acute, how do they look like? And when an angle is obtuse, meaning that those angles are measured more than 90 degrees, how would they look like? So when you take a look at the picture of an angle like this, would it, think about it, picture it in your head. Does it make sense to choose 80? Or does it make more sense to choose 100 degree? Jadi seperti itu tadi kalau ada estimasi dan juga visual skills, you can also tap into that. So as you are giving your students the different representations of the angle yang like the angle that looks like this, tentu itu lebih besar dari 90 derajat. Jadi would it make sense when a student is in doubt, that can be another checkpoint for them. Is it really 80 or is it 100? Nah, seperti itu ya. So the important part is where is the zero? That's when you would like to start measuring. So thank you for your participation in that. Okay, so we're coming to the next teaching idea, which is using the different teaching aids. So for example, paper cutting, wooden or plastic models, geoboards, such as what I used earlier, and also you can use justifications when wherever possible. So the first one here would be this parallelogram. So let me go over what we're going to do, and then I will demonstrate it for all of us. Okay. If you wish to, while I am going through this instruction with you, if you wish to also prepare your parallelogram cut from a piece of paper, you may do so. Kalau belum ada atau belum siap dan sekarang mau disiapkan, mau digambar di sehelai kertas, kemudian dipersiapkan supaya sudah ready untuk activity berikutnya juga sangat baik. Okay. So here, I'm taking this from one of our sources, of course from my pauser here, book 5B. So it says, Joanne cut parallelogram PQRS into 2 pieces. Jadi di sini ada shape parallelogram. Kalau yang kelas 5 pasti juga sudah belajar ya, what's the definition of parallelogram? It's a little bit different from rectangle. Then she made a half turn with one piece to match angle P with angle R and angle Q with angle S. Okay, so the goal here is to show that in the parallelogram PQRS that Joanne has, the angles that are on the opposite sides of a parallelogram or opposite angles are equal. Ya, jadi silakan Bapak Ibu kalau yang sudah mempersiapkan parallelogram. I will go to my working space now. So I'll show you the other camera. This will go away for a moment now. So starting off with a parallelogram ya, Ibu dan Bapak. So for example, you have a parallelogram like this. Tidak perlu terlalu besar, yang penting bisa digunakan. So you provide the parallelogram and you will have PQRS. Ya, sederhana itu. And then what you need to do is just, I've actually prepared the one that I've done before. Sama ya, mirip. If you have a pair of scissors, then we will follow the same steps like in the PowerPoint slide. So this is the whole parallelogram, PQRS. Those are the angles. Sorry, terbalik ya. PQRS. So we're going this way, okay? And then you will cut it in the middle. Okay, in the middle, and then the first thing that you want to do is you will make a half turn ya. Jadi kita putar bagian yang bawah sini. Kalau mau sekalian dicoba langsung bareng-bareng juga boleh. And then you will make a half turn. Ya, saya tunjukkan sekali lagi. So from these two pieces, the piece that is at the bottom of your shape, you just turn it. Nah, seperti itu. Sehingga persis berimpit ya. So it will coincide. So then from this, remember this was how it used to look like. And then sekarang dibalik. So if you have successfully done that, you will figure that angle P and angle R coincides. That tells you that the two angles are exactly the same measure. In the same manner, angle Q and angle S also coincide. Jadi berarti kedua angle ini juga ukurannya sama ya, same measures. So what can you obtain from here? The two angles, they're on the opposite sides of parallelogram are equal in measurement. Yang opposite itu sama. Ada yang sudah berhasil juga? Is there anybody that has done the experiment and successful? You will need a pair of scissors, yeah? So you will need to make the cut. Yeah, I just made another one. Sama juga. Yeah, so P, make a half turn. P and R are the same measures. Q and S are the same measures as well. Okay. By the way, while giving you a chance to give it a try for maybe 1 minute or so, ada beberapa yang mencoba nih. Thank you for the spotlight video ya, our operator. Sepertinya ini Pak Johan ya Pak. Sudah berhasil Pak?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, silakan sambil dicoba. Saya akan membacakan. There is a response here in the chat. I think this was for the protractor earlier. Place a center point along the bottom edge of the protractor where you want the vertex of the angle to be. Thank you so much for the description. I think it's very clear. And there's a question from Miss Mary or Miss Marie. Good day, Miss. Considering all the topics in grade 1 to 3, what are the measuring materials will you suggest that each kid should have? This is actually a good question. So while waiting for you to give it a try with the parallelogram, and maybe we can see some results a little bit later, I would like to address this one. So for those of you who teach younger primary, lower primary level, usually for measurement, because this is talking about measurement, but I think it still has some connection with geometry. For measurement, typically in grade 1, you start with informal measurement, right? So you do not all of a sudden introduce your students to the concept of centimeter, millimeter, or meter. That will come a little bit later in the learning. So for grade 1, typically you can use other objects to measure. So for instance, if you want to measure, let's say, what is it? If you want to measure paper strip, so how long is a paper strip? You can probably use a paper clip in order to measure. Ada yang pernah lakukan seperti itu? Jadi misalnya, I think now that I have the paper, I can also show it to you. So this is a little bit of segue into measurement, but I think it's still kind of relevant because measurement and geometry are usually related in many ways also. So for example, ya Ibu dan Bapak tadi khususnya yang menanyakan pertanyaan ini. So for example, I want to know how long it is from one end to another. What I can do is I can use paper clip.
I'm sorry, Miss Linda, would you please move the paper to the upside a little bit? Yeah, thank you.
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Mbak Ocha. And after this, we're going to get ready to take a look what the participants have as well, since they are trying out with the parallelogram. Yeah. So for this one, for instance, this is your paper strip. Maju. So what's the length of this rectangle misalnya begitu? Oh, it's 2 paper clips begitu. Jadi you can adapt this kind of activity for measurement, but I'm not gonna talk about this too much because this is measurement. Tapi kira-kira begini. Jadi kalau idenya grade 1 itu start off with something non-standard unit, we call it, right? Jadi belum yang distandarisasi, jadi bisa dari paper clip, atau kalau paper clip yang lebih kecil, the triangular ones are usually shorter. Ya. Ya. Jadi perlu lebih banyak lagi. How many of the smaller paper clips, because you're teachers, of course, I want to leverage this question a little bit. So if this is how big is the triangular paper clips, how many of those do you think will fill up the space? How many paper clips do you think is the length of the rectangle?
Maybe 5.
Probably 5?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe like 4 or 5, right? Okay. Meanwhile, there's also a question here, Miss Linda from Miss Fitriani. I want to ask, in Matematika Bahasa, circle mempunyai satu sisi, but maths, the circle has no side. Jadi maksudnya math in English ya. Is there any explanation? Thank you. Betul, karena usually sides are referring to straight sides. Jadi I think some books ya, probably will call it like one curved side. Misalnya begitu. Even though side by itself generally meaning the straight sides. Begitu ya. Tapi I would say memang circle ini is a unique case because the part that we would refer to even as the curved side atau satu sisi dari lingkaran itu kan sebetulnya adalah kumpulan titik ya. Jadi memang sebetulnya lingkaran itu unique that way. Dan memang ini lebih ke secondary, tapi tidak apa-apa. Karena sebetulnya the definition of a circle itu sendiri adalah a collection of infinite amount of points that are equidistant from the center. Jadi kalau kita punya pusat dari lingkaran tersebut, kemudian di sini ada kumpulan titik yang jumlahnya tidak terhingga, yang semuanya berjarak sama, disitulah kita bisa punya lingkaran, begitu ya. Dan karena itu pula, maka kita tidak gambar lingkaran, kita gambar lingkaran butuh alat berbeda ya. Misalnya kita pakai jangka gitu ya, karena untuk bisa gambarkan lingkarannya tersebut. Jadi memang secara definisi, dia kumpulan titik-titik ya. Itu sebabnya mungkin tidak disebut sebagai sisi, karena dia bukan sisi yang lurus, tidak sama seperti misalnya segitiga. Kalau segitiga, you just grab your ruler, you create the 3 sides connected, and where the 2 sides are, where you can find the 2 sides, maka ada vertexnya begitu, dan bisa juga diukur anglesnya. Namun tidak demikian dengan lingkaran. Mungkin saya perkirakan seperti itu. To show the equal angles, ada response dari Ibu Asia. to show the equal angles, it would be better if both sides, back-to-back sides of the parallelogram were different colors. Oh, I see what you're saying. Jadi misalnya ada yang, ya sama-sama Miss Fitriani. Yes. Maybe it's better if you can see my face now that we are having a little bit of a conversation about this. To show the equal angles, it would be better if both sides of the parallelogram were different colors. Miss Asia, boleh saya menyapa dulu sejenak? Yang menuliskan di chat ini, adakah Miss Asia? Hello,
Yes,
Miss.
hi.
Hello.
Hi.
I think your idea here is helpful. Could you just tell the teachers about what you wrote in the chat?
Because before you show us how to cut the parallelogram into two to show the equal angles. Yeah, so when you flip the other half, it doesn't really seem because it's the same color. But if the both back-to-back sides are different color, let's say like red and white, so when you flip it, perhaps we can see that it's the white meeting the red one.
Okay, okay.
I think that's, I mean, I was also almost missed it. I almost missed that you were flipping the other half.
Okay, so that's for, yeah, thank you, Miss, for the idea. So maybe to follow up with that, some origami papers have double-sided, yeah? I wonder if you can try that next time. Maybe that will be better. Does anybody ready? Thank you, Miss. I just wanted to follow up with that because that has to do with the technicalities, right? And it's a good idea. Is there anybody who has successfully cut your parallelogram and show the same angles? Ada yang udah berhasil dan mau menunjukkan kepada kita juga in front of the camera?
We have from Miss Sarah Winda.
Silakan.
Yeah. Please, Miss Sarah Winda, show the show the shape.
We love to see your face, Miss.
Yeah.
Thank you for the chance. So this is my parallelogram. This is what is the first form. I cut it. And then I cut it into two.
Yes.
So I got two forms here. This one, this corner, similar with this corner. Okay, and this corner, similar with this one. Okay, I try and try to.
It coincides. I can see that. Coincides. Yeah.
Completely cover each other.
Yeah, they cover each other exactly. It means that the angles are similar angles. Thank you, Ms. Sarah, for showing that. There's actually one more demonstration that I wish to show you, and that is to show another properties of angles in parallelogram. Again, those of you who are teaching grade 5, probably you are very familiar with this property. So we are starting off with the parallelogram again. Okay, so it has 4 sides and also 4 angles, of course. Now this time we would like to show how the angles on the same parallel sides of the parallelogram are supplementary angles, form supplementary angles. Supplementary angles means angles that add up to 180 degrees, yeah? So it's still the same action. You start with a parallelogram, you cut it in the middle, and then what you can do this time is you just move the bottom side to the top. This one is probably a lot easier to see than the previous, yeah? The previous, if it is same color, it could be a little bit challenging. But this one, all you need to do is just move this piece now to the top. There you go. So then what's the goal is to be able to show the student, if you take a look at angle P and Q, what do you notice from angle P and Q? They are angles that form straight line, angles on the same side of the straight line. Jadi berarti supplementary. In the same manner, what do you notice about angle R and angle S? They're also on the same side of your straight line. Okay, berarti 180. Jadi ini relatif lebih gampang untuk ditunjukkan. I think it will be more obvious. Yeah. So from here, you just need to move it. And of course, keep in mind, this is grade 5, so you would have introduced some of those terms already, such as complementary angles, angles that add up to 180 degrees. So this is a good time for you to also let them practice that and show it. Okay. And the goal, of course, is to let our students experience it, right? Experience it first with something concrete that they can do. They can use any kind of papers as long as they have it at home, whether it's colored paper or white paper, and then just do the demonstration. So that's something that you can do using cut papers in order to show a concept to your students. So these are the recap. Okay, we started off showing that opposite angles of parallelogram are equal. And this one was the last one that I was showing you. Okay, the angles on the same parallel sides of parallelogram add up to 180 degrees. There's also another version, of course, if you wish to do this other one. As you can see, the step will be similar. So you start off with a shape, but you cut it right through this way. So instead of cutting it in the horizontal side, you're cutting it through vertically. Just to let you know, the cut does not need to be a curve like this, yeah? So if you take a look, from my example also, the cut was, kind of like wavy, right? It doesn't have to be that way. It can also be a straight cut if you would prefer that. It's just to show you, even though you're cutting it this way, like the wavy cut, it will not matter. So long as you're doing the correct demonstration, then you will be able to show the correct property of the angles of parallelogram. Jadi nggak usah sampai berkelok gini pun nggak apa-apa ya, Ibu dan Bapak. Masih akan tetap propertiesnya akan tetap ditunjukkan dengan jelas. Okay, so that's what we did. And of course, if you're in a class, again, you can always ask your student to practice, show their friends, talk to their friends about this property. Okay, this would be the last activity. I think we still have some time to be able to do this, and I'm really hoping that we can do this together, because the more data we have, then the more valid our observation would be. So this one is for grade 6. Jadi kalau ada yang mengajar grade 6, upper primary, this one is appropriate for you, for your classes as well. So here's the activity. It says, Ben says the ratio of the perimeter of a circle to its diameter is the same for all circles. Do you agree? Explain. So here's an example of a circle, a hula hoop. It has the shape of a circle. The length around the hoop is called the circumference. The activity that we're going to do is we are going to do this one. So we're going to use a string to measure a circle, and then we will also measure the diameter. Okay, here's the background information, and we will do just that. Okay, so let me give an example for you, and then after this, I think Mbak Ocha can share the link to the last activity that we're going to do. Thank you very much, Mbak Ocha. Let me share first. We will try to do this as best as we could in this big group, okay? Okay, so the link that is shared by our moderator will, oh, thank you. I think you have no problem, yeah, with the link, because I see that your names are all here. So basically what we're gonna do together for this last activity is we are going to try to find the ratio, so the value or the quotient when you are dividing a circumference of a circle with the diameter of a circle. Jadi nanti ini harapan saya kita bisa punya data ya. So compiled together with this group. Jadi silakan Ibu dan Bapak boleh isi di daerah yang masih kosong sesuai dengan pengukurannya. So let me just show you very quickly how I will do mine. So I'm going to use an object, right? So let me take a look at my wooden solid, for instance. And then what I will do is I can take a piece of string. I just happen to have a ribbon, so I will use a ribbon. Kalau ibu dan bapak mau pakai benang wol juga boleh, atau kalau langsung punya measuring tape ya, yang seperti tukang jahit juga boleh, selama pengukurannya dalam sentimeter, because we are going to fill out the data in centimeter. So here's the activity. Jadi basically kalau ini adalah circle-nya, tentu kita ukur biasa ya. Kita akan ukur dari satu ujung ribbon to the other end, supaya kita tahu seberapa panjang gitu, atau seberapa circumference dari circle-nya ini. So kita akan ukur melingkar. So silakan Bapak dan Ibu bisa mulai mengukur juga ya circle-nya masing-masing. Saya juga akan ukur, kemudian saya akan coba gunting sesuai dengan ukurannya. Saya perlu ukur sedikit lagi. Saya akan beri tanda di sini. So you will measure two things, the circumference and also the diameter. Okay. So silakan dicoba. And once you are ready with those measurement, boleh masukkan ke datanya sama-sama ya. Jadi basically kita mau cari tahu the circumference and the diameter and whether the ratio between those two is always the same ya, seperti itu. And then diameter, so I will need another piece of string. Kalau diameter means the distance between one point to the of the circle to another that passes through the center. Jadi kita perkirakan saja ya. So you estimate, do your best to estimate. Mungkin saya dekatkan begini. Estimate berarti kira-kira sebegini ya diameternya. Saya akan kasih tanda. Misalnya begitu. And then once you have done that, mungkin the reason why a ribbon is used instead of measuring tape ya, jadi yang seperti alat ukur di tukang jahit itu karena mungkin relatively ribbon itu lebih general ya. Jadi kalau dari segi teknis menemukan pita atau mungkin benang wol itu kan sedikit lebih mudah dan penggaris biasanya siswa sudah punya. Jadi dibandingkan kalau kita meminta setiap siswa sediakan measuring tape mungkin belum tentu ada. Mungkin begitu kira-kira. Tapi kalau Ibu dan Bapak merasa oh measuring tape lebih gampang kok mereka, murid-murid silakan ya. So here the diameter of my circle is about 4.2. Then the circumference, let's see. Mulai dari 0, about 13.5. So let me put mine. Jadi begitu ya, so circumference-nya 13.5. And the diameter is about 4.2. So I will put in my data as well. Oh, hebat sekali. Sebentar ya, sudah ada hasilnya ternyata. Okay, let me share the screen with you. Oh, thank you. You name also the objects, ya. Yeah? Thank you very much. Sorry, tidak bisa saya panggil namanya karena di sini diidentifikasinya anonymous semua ya. Anonymous chipmunk, anonymous jackal, dinamain sendiri sama Google Docs ya. Oke, thank you. I think you get the idea. Dan silakan juga diisi untuk kolom terakhir, circumference divided by diameter, correct one decimal place. Tentu saja, I would encourage you, Bapak Ibu, untuk gunakan calculator ya for this part. And you can also encourage your students to do the same. You can use online calculators. You can also use a physical calculators and then divide the circumference with a diameter. Silakan saya beri waktu mungkin sekitar 2 more minutes supaya lebih banyak yang punya kesempatan to fill up this data. So you see that this kind of activity is can involve everybody in the class, real time like this. Of course, group work will do too. Independent task, definitely. Seperti tadi saran saya pada Bapak yang bertanya ya tadi di awal. I said that if this is in the context of online learning, sometimes you would also like your students to do some sort of independent work or independent study. This is something that you can consider to do at home, for students to do at home. Wow, I see some results here, 3.2, 3.3. Let me wait for about 1 more minute because I really am curious to see what we come up with for the last column. Thank you, Ibu dan Bapak, for completing this tasks and also for filling up the table.
Sorry, Ms. Linda.
Yes.
Maybe you could switch the camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. So it's good that all of you can access the same document. So even though you did not see my face earlier, you would still be able to have an access. Beautiful. There's 3.8, there's 3.1, 3.1, 3.2. Okay, let me wait maybe 30 seconds more and then we will just discuss very briefly before closing out this activity together. Okay, so maybe we can do 2 things simultaneously as more and more of you are completing this data. Thank you so much for doing this together with all of us here in this class. Okay, so the question, of course, is the last column here represent the value we obtain when we divide circumference and diameter of a circle. What do we expect? Anyone want to speak up to that question? What are we expecting here? Teachers. Mbak Ocha juga boleh, sudah mulai membantu mengamati kalau ada yang answer through chat or raise their hand. So what are we after? What are we trying to discover together as a group here on the last column? Sepertinya sudah ada beberapa yang mengisi di chat ya, Mbak Ocha?
Yeah, that's true. The pi.
Oh. So you got it, yeah? So this is to discover the estimated value of pi. Okay, so pi, of course, is a constant that are used a lot in circle as we are measuring or as we are trying to find the area, the circumference of the circle. So what is the pi actually? Oh, pi is a ratio. Ratio between what? Circumference and the diameter of a circle. And what do you notice all the time? Oh, it's about 3, right? It's a little more than 3. It's acceptable enough to give a brief description like that. And of course, later you can follow up. You can play a video that shows how many different digits of pi, right? Just to make it a little bit more fun. But indeed, this is an investigation activity that you can do for a whole class or for a small group or even as an independent work in order to discover the value of pi. So thank you, teachers, for trying it out with all of us. If you're still finishing off completing that section in the Google Docs, feel free to do so. And in the meantime, let me go back to my PowerPoint screen. And we've almost gotten to the last part of our presentation here. So this is the opportunity for you. If you still have any question related to what we have done or related with the teaching ideas I have shown you, this would be a good chance.
Yeah. Silakan Bapak Ibu, if you have any question to Miss Linda, you can type it on the chat box or you can use the raise hand feature. Silakan. Yes, we have again from Mr. Rados.
Yes, Pak.
Linda.
All right, Miss Linda.
Yes.
First of all, I will say thank you for all of your presentation. My question will be, yeah, it's best that we use small groups of students to do these all kinds of experiments. And I just want to know about what you have done in your class. If do you prefer to mix weak students with the strong students in one group, or just put all the weak students in the same group, and then you will help them more than all the students in the strong groups? And that is the first question. And the second question is, what if some of the groups have gotten the conclusion that you want them to have, but some of them have not. So will you, ask them to redo the same experiment or different experiment, or you just limit the number of experiments that you want them to do, regardless all of the students have got it or not?
Yeah, thank you, Parados. I think, again, your question is very important, and I can see that it's based off of a classroom, a real classroom experience. So let me address it one by one. The first one regarding the grouping, Pak. For this kind of activity, I really don't think it matters so much whether you want to put the students based on their ability or you want them to have a mixed grouping. It will not really matter as much because this is experimental. And as we have, this is the reason why I'm doing this with such a big group of people, because then we will obtain a lot of data. So the important things here is just, if anything, this kind of relate a little bit with your second question. How many times are you going to ask the students to do the experiment, right? I would say what I've done personally in class, I divided my students into groups of 4, and for each of the students, I asked them to bring 2 or 3 items. So you will obtain about 8 data or 12 data maximum, right? I think with that many data, even though some of the data, as we can see also in our data earlier, ada juga yang dapat sampai 3.8 misalnya, yang a little bit off, sudah lebih dekatnya ke 4 dan bukan ke 3 ya. Jadi berarti itu tidak sesuai dengan harapan kita gitu ya Pak. Tapi I think most of the values that you come up with actually is expected. Jadi ada yang 3.1, 3.2. And if you notice the way that I was guiding the conclusion, I was also saying when we divide the circumference with the diameter, it's a little bit more than 3. Begitu ya. Dan itu memang yang disarankan juga di in the textbook that I was using. Oh, it's a little bit more than 3. Let me go back to the PowerPoint yang tadi saya sempat show juga before we start the activity. Oke. Bisa terlihat Paradot screen-nya?
Yeah. Yeah. I can see.
Nah, jadi actually before the activity started, ada pengantar ini ya tadi. Adeline used a string to go around a circle of diameter 9 centimeter. Then she measured the length of the piece of string to find the circumference of the circle. She found, yang bagian bawah sini, she found that the circumference of the circle is slightly more than 3 times its diameter. Jadi slightly more sama dengan a little bit more than 3 times. Jadi at this point, because this is the discovery stage, we are accepting students' answers so long as it's a little bit more than 3. So related again with your second question, Pak, I would suggest sebagai guru, langkah apa yang sebaiknya kita lakukan supaya investigation ini produktif. Usually saya tuliskan Pak pertanyaan-pertanyaan tadi. Jadi misalnya saya bisa tanyakan, what do you notice about the value you find when you divide circumference with diameter? Is it slightly more than 3? Yes or no? Mungkin kita bisa lebih explicit dan straightforward. Is it more than 3? Do you agree? Atau pakai pertanyaan tadi yang ada di PowerPoint. She found that, mungkin saya tunjukkan ya, sepertinya saya lihat Bapak lagi make notes, jadi saya tunjukkan lagi. Bapak bisa gunakan prompt ini. She found that the circumference of the circle is slightly more than 3 times its diameter. Jadi use this as a prompt, and then you can ask your students in your groups, do this experiment, and then conclude together. Is your finding the same as Adeline? Nah, bisa begitu ya Pak, mungkin lebih enak ya. Jadi kayak masuknya seperti cerita, and then we ask the student to confirm if their finding is similar to Adeline atau berbeda. Saya kira dari situ nanti hasilnya akan lebih mendekat ke apa yang kita harapkan gitu ya Pak. Gitu sih kalau.
So more data there will be more discussions with them, right?
Correct. Okay. And I would say as a teacher, if you found a data yang meleset sekali ya, yang seperti tadi itu ya Pak, 3.8.
We have to investigate.
Correct. You can turn that into a teaching moment. Exactly. Jadi you can ask them if you find something that is really a data that is really different from the rest. Talk about it with your group. Why do you think so? Or go back and check that data to make sure that you have obtained the correct value.
Right.
Tidak apa-apa kita gunakan itu justru sebagai point of discussion, like what you said. I like that. Thank you, Pak.
Thank you, Ms. Linda. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I like your questions. That's really stimulating a productive discussion among us.
Yes,
all right, Mbak Ocha, I will give it over to you. I see your smile, of course, in my screen.
Okay, I think
thank you. I'll give it over.
Question, Ms. Linda. This would be the last one, I think.
Oh,
so
yeah,
this
sure,
from
sure.
Ms. Elisa Trisna. Any suggestions on how to evaluate the students' work in drawing angles accurately during home-based learning? What do you think, Ms. Linda?
Yes. So the reason why I was showing Jamboard earlier to you is to provide an option for you as a teacher to compile your student work in one place. Of course, I'm also fully aware. I've gotten this question before from a different teacher at a different session also. Now that we're in home-based learning, do you still assess something that is kinesthetic like skill or a fine motor skill such as drawing? Of course, yes. If that is part of your learning objectives, why not? All we need to think about is what are some of the alternative tools available for us so we can still do that. So Jamboard is one of the tools that you can use for that reason. Of course, there are also other tools, and let me just type it up also in the chat in case anyone else would like to use this. I wonder if anybody has used Padlet before. Padlet is also similar to Jamboard. It's like a virtual whiteboard in which students can upload their pictures. Now, if your school is already using a particular platform, such as Google or other kind of learning platforms, and you compile your students' work in a digital portfolio, or you have a particular folder designated for your students to upload their pictures, then you can also utilize that. So I will say, yes, you can do that. And if you're a little bit, I guess probably as a teacher, if you're a little bit unsure whether your students are the ones who are genuinely working through it, or they are receiving a little too much help from their partners, mungkin begitu ya, saya lihat beberapa teachers smiling gitu ya. Of course, in the context of home-based learning, memang tidak mungkin se-ideal waktu kita ada di kelas. Tapi mungkin beberapa parameters that we can use adalah misalnya time limit ya. Saya pernah coba juga seperti ini. Jadi, you give a student a particular task. Mungkin by the end of the class period, you give them maximum 15 minutes aja untuk upload hasilnya. Jadi kalau tadi lessonnya tentang measuring and drawing angles, berilah waktu 15 menit after the lesson, sudah harus masuk upload gambarnya. Jadi at least kita minimize the risk ya, minimize the risk dari student itu receiving too much help. But then at the end of the day, I guess this is also a good time for me to segue into the last part of my presentation, which is this one, Ibu dan Bapak. I would like to close out with a quote that I think is appropriate in light of what I was suggesting to the question. Teaching kids to count is fine, but teaching them what counts is best. Ya, mungkin ini sesuatu yang pretty basic ya. In mathematics, we teach our students, our young children, how to count, how to measure, how to use the correct term, how to work collaboratively to solve problems. But at the end of the day, teaching them what counts is best. And what really counts is the meaningful learning experience as appropriate to their age group. And in that case, you as a teacher, as I've always said in my training sessions, are the experts of your classes. So as you're developing the best possible strategies for your class with the different limitations and also the different strengths that your class possesses, that's when you teach them what counts. All right. Thank you so much for your questions and your participation. I do love this group. What a wonderful and enthusiastic group. And let me hand it over to Mbak Ocha. Thank you so much, Mbak Ocha.
Yes, thank you also. Thank you very much, Ms. Linda, for the inspiring sessions. We have so many teaching ideas, especially the hands-on activities for teaching geometry. Thank you very much, Ms. Linda. And dear educators, we need to end the Q&A session. But don't worry, if you still have any questions to Ms. Linda, or regarding Mentari group events, you can deliver your question to the written email and WhatsApp number on the screen. Silakan Bapak Ibu, apabila masih memiliki pertanyaan, bisa mengirimkan pertanyaan tersebut ke email maupun WhatsApp number yang sudah ada di layar Anda ya, Bapak Ibu. And now, educators, let's have a photo session together. So please turn on the camera or video so we can show our smiles and happy faces. And my colleague will help me to lead this photo session. Please, Mas Ludi, kindly help us.
This is usually the most favorite part, yeah?
Yeah.
The photo session.
Yeah, sure. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please turn on your camera. Okay, I think everyone already turned on the camera, yeah? I will take a picture. Show your happy face, or you can make a gesture of triangle. Or
Yeah, because we are talking about geometry.
Yeah, or cylinder.
So if you want to make triangle or hold up your protractor.
I will take around 4 or 3 times, yeah.
Oh yeah, I like Mbak Ocha style.
Triangle.
First pose, yeah. I will take the picture. 1, 2. Okay.
Very good, nice.
Next. Second pose.
Okay, happy, remain happy.
1, 2. Okay, next. The third pose. 1.
Makin kreatif nih gaya-gayanya. Mungkin aku begini.
Okay, one more. 1, 2. Okay, silakan Kak Ocha.
Okay, thank you very much, Mas Ludi, for leading the photo session, and the photos will be sent to the WhatsApp group, Bapak Ibu. And dari tadi sudah ada yang bertanya ya, apakah bisa mendapatkan materi hari ini? So educators, for those who would like to have today's materials or files, you may download it through the link on the screen, or please also check on the chat box ya, Bapak Ibu sudah saya kirimkan juga di chat box, bisa dicatat terlebih dahulu sehingga bisa mengaksesnya nanti setelah selesai sesi. Silakan. And in case some of you haven't filled in the attendance form, Bapak Ibu, now displayed on the screen and also on the chat box is the link for the attendance form. So for you who haven't filled in the attendance form, please do fill it right now. Silakan Bapak Ibu yang belum mengisi saja ya, yang belum mengisi formulir kehadiran di awal sesi tadi, silakan dapat mengisinya sekarang dan mohon diperhatikan pada penulisan nama lengkap juga alamat email aktif. Silakan Bapak Ibu. Thank you very much. And please kindly spend 2 minutes, Bapak Ibu, to fill in our feedback online form. The link and the QR code are displayed on the screen and also on the chat box. Silakan, Bapak Ibu dapat diisi. This is important. Please access the online form and make sure to fill it carefully on your full name and active email address. Sudah tertera juga ya di chat box. Silakan kami berikan waktu 2 menit untuk mengisi. Okay, thank you very much for your feedback, Bapak Ibu. It will be a very good contribution for us in improving our quality and also to serve you better in the future. And you will have your e-certificate delivered to your email. Educators, I would like to share some updates from Mentari Group. The first one is, as we all know that Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy is a sustainable program and will be conducted until November. Dan tentu saja di bulan Oktober nanti, di minggu keempat ya Bapak Ibu, kita ada lagi hadir kembali dengan tema penilaian dan evaluasi pengajaran jarak jauh. Dan tanggalnya itu pada tanggal 26 sampai 31 Oktober 2020 ya Bapak Ibu. Silahkan apabila ingin mengetahui informasi lebih lanjut mengenai tema-tema yang lebih spesifik, bisa mengunjungi link yang sudah tertera di layar Anda. Ataupun jika ingin langsung mendaftar, sangat silahkan Bapak Ibu. Bisa mengakses link yang sudah ada di layar ya, atau bisa akses hadiryou.id. And then next, Bapak Ibu, Mentari Group melalui Mentari Teachers Academy mempersembahkan program 100 hari transformasi guru yang menyeluruh dan komprehensif dalam mempersiapkan guru baru maupun guru lama di sekolah untuk memiliki karakter baik dan kecakapan tinggi. Untuk menghasilkan guru yang memiliki kepercayaan diri dan juga kompetensi yang tinggi untuk mengajar mata pelajaran bahasa Inggris, juga matematika dalam bahasa Inggris. Program ini sejalan dengan visi dan misi Mentari Group yang selalu kami hidupi dalam setiap karya kami sejak 19 tahun yang lalu, yaitu menjadi kontributor aktif dalam pembangunan sumber daya manusia yang unggul di Indonesia melalui jalur pendidikan. Dengan memiliki tenaga pengajar yang telah mengikuti program 100 hari transformasi guru, maka sekolah Bapak dan Ibu telah memiliki tenaga pengajar yang siap mendukung transformasi sekolah dan dapat menyajikan materi pembelajaran secara interaktif, menarik, dan juga kontekstual untuk kelas daring maupun tatap muka Bapak Ibu, hanya dalam waktu 4 bulan saja. Bapak Ibu, mari bergabung di program 100 hari transformasi guru. Caranya seperti apa? Silahkan bisa mengakses link yang tertera di layar atau juga sudah saya kirimkan di chat box Bapak Ibu sekalian. And next, we also have 2 platforms for you to access Bapak Ibu. The first one, we have Hadiryou. We provide Hadiryou site for everyone to register for Mentari Group's events, both face-to-face and live streaming. Also, through Hadiryou, you can create your own event. Kindly visit www.hadiryou.id regularly to check our event updates. Or, if you want to have a partnership, please contact our team. And the next, we also have Mau Pintar, Bapak Ibu. It's an online learning platform that provides a lot of learning videos that can be accessed every day by students or even educators to have inspiration for teaching ideas. One of the current events is Mentari Tutor Online for students learning with the best of Mentari Group's tutors. Currently, we have classes for maths and English subjects. Please kindly visit www.maupintar.id to access the online learning platform. Dear educators, it's the end of today's session. Hopefully this session can provide a lot of information and also ideas for the teaching development, especially in this current condition. On behalf of Mentari Group and Mentari Teachers Academy, we would like to thank you all and hope to see you all in the next event. Stay healthy and have a nice day. Thank you.
Belajar bersama Mentari ini saya sudah ikut 2 event. Yang pertama eventnya dari Miss Yuliani ya, yang membahas topik tentang English for Secondary, dan yang kedua membahas topik tentang international class dari Mr. Fabio ya.
Akhir bulan Agustus kemarin saya mengikuti 2 sesi Minggu Belajar bersama MTA itu, yang English for Preschool, yang phonics, dan English for Primary.
Setelah kedua kali ini, Dan yang kedua kali ini selalu berhasil membuat saya semangat lagi dalam bidang pekerjaan saya, yaitu mengajar.
Menurut saya adalah perlu manajemen pengajaran ini sangat inspiratif sekali ya, terutama bagi guru-guru yang sedang melaksanakan proses pembelajaran daring, karena di sana dijelaskan berbagai macam salah satunya media, kemudian juga tata cara mengelola pembelajaran, baik itu dari pihak maksudnya dari aspek kognitif, afektif maupun yang lainnya, itu sangat bisa dilakukan.
Setelah kemarin mengikuti pembelajaran itu amat sangat bisa diaplikasikan, amat sangat bisa diaplikasikan. Tapi kalau untuk sekolah yang di tempat saya ngajar ini lebih cocok untuk yang di level S1. Dari kelas minggu belajar ini yang paling memberi kesan kepada saya itu dan paling saya suka itu adalah aktivitas-aktivitas yang disampaikan oleh trainer yang membuat kita selalu bisa terlibat dalam dalam pelatihan ini, sehingga pelatihan ini tidak terkesan seperti pelatihan satu arah tetapi pelatihan dua arah.
Yang paling saya sukai tentu adalah bagaimana yang sesuai dengan pertanyaan saya ya, penilaian afektif ya, penilaian afektif. Si pemateri itu menjelaskan bagaimana ya memberikan contoh terlebih dahulu ketika pembelajaran daring seperti ini, aspek penilaian afektif yang mungkin bisa diterapkan di sekolah. Nah, saya rasa itu penjelasannya sangat mudah diterima dan ingin direalisasikan, ingin dicoba.
Bapak Ibu guru yang saya kasihi di seluruh Indonesia, baik yang mengajarnya di daerah kota besar yang memiliki sarana dan prasarana yang memadai, maupun di lokasi yang daerah pedalaman yang mungkin dengan berbagai kekurangannya. Saya sebagai tenaga pendidik juga merasakan apa yang Bapak Ibu sekarang khawatirkan, mengajar melalui online atau virtual. Jadi Mentari, Minggu Belajar bersama Mentari Teachers Academy ini benar-benar membantu, dan senang kita bisa belajar bersama-sama di event-event berikutnya. Karena sebagai guru kita pasti perlu terus belajar, meningkatkan skill kita, kemudian mengikuti penyesuaian-penyesuaian yang terbaru supaya kita bisa sama-sama membantu anak-anak kita yang akan jadi penerus bangsa, supaya mereka juga bisa menikmati pembelajaran mereka walaupun hanya melalui sambungan online atau dari rumah saja.
If I move the angle B, you see here. Okay, I will stop.
Kita akan belajar matematika dengan topik luas dan juga keliling. Bantu Kak Hijri untuk mencari panjangnya berapa dan lebarnya berapa. Dengan menggunakan apa ini namanya?
Penggaris.
Ya benar, penggaris. Oh, karena ini keliling, jadi cara mengerjakannya adalah
2 kali panjang tambah lebar.
Keliling sama dengan
Indonesia, come
you very much, dear educators, for joining this event. So see you later on the next training.